crowd today?
I think we're in.
Testing 1, 2, 3. I think they're on.
Calling to order the January 13th meeting of the Board of Education, the first meeting of 2026. Welcome, everybody. Alex isn't able to be here with us tonight. But I think we're going to start first with we'll start first with thank you, the distraction-free school update. I think it's something that everybody's very appreciative that the principals and assistant principals are here to talk about with us. We're looking forward to this.
Thank you, Jody. We put together a brief presentation on the status update as it relates to distraction-free schools. We received a series of questions from the board to kind of prompt some of our thinking on this. We incorporated those questions into the slide deck that you'll see in front of you. And obviously, at the end, we have some kind of questions if there's anything that either we didn't address or that comes up over the course of the presentation that sparks the curiosity. First off, we had Thomas will take a look at in the presentation, which is a review of the existing policy, and then where we stand with current implementation, a little bit of discussion of the realities of touching, discussion of some of the challenges, cell phones versus Chromebooks, and some of the hurdles we have experienced, as well as a brief discussion on some ideas for data collection for future. So just to make sure we're all fresh on the policy, the district prohibits student use of internet-enabled devices during the school day. Importantly, internet-enabled devices is not just cell phones, but includes smartwatches, headphones, and personal laptop devices. The school day is not just instructional time, it is also during lunch periods, it's also during recess, it's also during the passing period between classes, and academic coaching. And then school grounds are not just inside of the school buildings, but also playgrounds, athletic fields, and anything that's within the real property boundaries of the elementary school middle school. As it relates to our current implementation, there has been really demonstrable improvement in distraction-free learning environments. In classrooms, in the hallways, in the lunchroom, we have very, very, very few instances where staff members are reporting that students are using cell phones in classes. The few instances where we have violations have been during some of those less structured times, but certainly as compared to last year where during the passing period, during study hall, during lunch, you see students walk around with their faces in their phones, checking their messages or their social media or what have you. That's not happening. And in replacement with that, we're seeing just student interactions, right? That you walk into our main lobby and students are having old-fashioned face-to-face discussions. So it's really, by and large, been effective in ensuring that from bell to bell, from the beginning of the day to the end of the day, students are not on their phones. And we will discuss some of the challenges and some of the infractions overall. Importantly, we are seeing limited adherence to the actual procedure around couching. We started off really quite strong, and I think as students realized that nobody was inspecting their pouches, the students, they put it away, they put it in their backpacks, they put it in their pockets. We don't see it, and therefore it is not distracting them in the hallways or in the classroom. But if our goal is for every student to put their phones in a pouch, we are falling short of that goal. We have a little bit more of a nuanced discussion later in the slide deck around the realities of pouching and some preventative. I think, importantly, there is widespread consensus among certainly the administrative team, among teachers, and then in conversations with our regional colleagues, that even though the actual adherence to the pouching procedure is limited, the pouching procedures writ large increase our ability to consistently enforce distraction-free environments. I was at a regional event earlier this morning, and principal colleagues were articulating some frustration that we're halfway through the year and they're seeing significant upticks in infractions. And those principals who share that do not have pouching as part of their procedures. And the principals that I talk to who do have pouching, it creates more of another layer in the process. So we'll discuss that a little bit more. With that, I will toss it along to Sarah and Lauren, who will discuss some of that message.
Thank you. So we're going to look at the FMS side of things first, and as we can say with confidence, all of our students are fully aware of the policy. Whether or not all are using their pouches still remains to be seen, but we can say some students are using their pouches for those devices. Being at that middle school level, students are honest. We know that for the most part, fingers crossed. And so we do have some students who are not bringing in their pouches and dropping it off to the main office. With that being said, though, we are seeing a very small number of students who are actually violating the procedure in terms of cell phone usage. Most of our students who are in violation of the policy are either using their headphones or their Chromebooks. That's where we're seeing the biggest issue for us at the middle school. Like I said, very, very few students are having their phones confiscated during the school day. They are remaining distraction-free for the most part.
Thank you. And I'll speak a little for the high school. Again, students are aware of the policy and expectations. Virtually all students are not using during instruction. Total this year, we do log every single time a phone is confiscated. 5 maximum throughout the entire year have been during instruction. A lot of times it's a substitute teacher and they pull it out, or it's the end of the day and they pull it out. But virtually all students are not using it in class. If they're using it seen in the hall or in the study hall. It says most students do not pouch their devices. This was seen if we ever have an evacuation of some sort. We say unlock it. It's like, no, we have it. They take it out of their bag. But we don't see it during instruction, so it's distraction free. Like I said, we do log them, so there have been some students pop with their phone during the day, but only 6 students out of the students pop with their phone have repeated it. So based on our policy, if a student has it a second time, we do call their parents and have their parents pick it up, and that has only happened to 6 students in our entire school based on that. So it's more of an accountability piece, we feel, when they sneak it out for a second and then they don't do it the second time. So that's also helped keep it consistently in control.
As an entire administrative team, we will say these are 3 biggest impacts that we're seeing firsthand being in the hall. There is definitely an increased classroom focus. Almost all of our teachers will agree with that. Students are staying on task and leaving the classroom a limited amount of time, not having their devices so much linked to them, especially at the middle school level. We're definitely seeing those increased peer interactions, especially at lunch in the cafeteria and those unsupervised times outside. And I know Ms. Ware and Mr. Clinton can speak to it in their study halls and their students in the halls. And the biggest thing for us is there's been a decrease in disciplinary incidents, especially related to social media. Having those devices, not accessing those sites, they're finding themselves in a lot less trouble.
So with phones away in a larger way, students have begun to engage with their Chromebooks a bit more. So Chromebooks at the one-to-one level have become the primary medium for students to engage in personal digital use during their downtime throughout the instructional day, which is a new challenge. More consistent pouch enforcement would require significant increasing in our staffing and time allocations for not only the administrative team, but those that work on monitoring and supervising within the hallways. High school lunch with open campus has also created an enforcement difficulty as well.
Great, and so one of our next steps is we do do plan on surveying local students and staff to see kind of how this is going for them, the policy, and their increased feel a sense of instruction going on in class, and also how they feel outside the study hall, especially in high school, where we don't have all eyes on where they go to the study hall. So we are planning a survey mid-year and also survey end of the year to give both students and staff to try to get a little more qualitative and quantitative data to assess this more. With that said, we've obviously been in our halls, talked to our chairs, talked to our departments, our teachers, talked to our students. We have a lot of qualitative, within that throughout the semester, but this will give us kind of a more bigger picture when we get the data from those two surveys.
Do you mind if I do a cold call to our student board reps to see what their critique is, and then we'll,
That's what I was going to do.
yeah, that, and then we'll open it up to the board.
Okay.
I love putting people on the spot.
So I think the biggest thing for me and Ella is when we heard that principals were going to come give a presentation about distraction-free schools, they were not going to know that people don't pouch their phones. Nobody pouches their phones. And we were worried that we were going to have to break it to you and say, it's fine because no one's really using them, and we don't want, you guys to be looking in and asking, hey, is your phone pouched? Like, it's away, we're not on it. But the biggest thing for us is we get a sense that students are okay with the phone policy. Like, they understand it's a state law, there's nothing we can do to change that. But where there is some frustration is the personal devices, because a lot of students find the Chromebooks hard to use. They're very slow, laggy, glitchy. Some of them have technical issues, not with software, but actual hardware of the Chromebook. So they find it why can I not just use my personal computer? And if you're worried that I'm going to be playing games on it, I can play games on my Chromebook too. So what is the difference there? And also there's been some inconsistency with teachers enforcing that, which there's teachers who I have, they'll see a computer brought from home and they'll say, you can't have that out, please put that away, I have a Chromebook for you. And there's teachers who say, they'll turn a blind eye to it, right? But that is what I'm seeing, at least. Ella, do you?
Yeah, I'd say it's roughly the same. I think Joaquin did a really good way of summing it up. I'd say with having a super class, it's definitely sort of a chore if I have to bring in my personal computer and my home computer, and I find that the Chromebook that I have actually is very laggy, and it's kind of inhibits my learning because it causes me to not complete my assignments because of how many problems I'll have with it throughout the class. And just having multiple tabs open, it does not help because it lags it significantly. So I think that was definitely just one of the things that is behind students solely bringing in their personal computers, because it's a lot faster. It helps us work and be able to have multiple different classes open. So we have our work from one class open and we group those tabs together, and then we can have other classes open and it won't affect how well our computers work. I think also with the phone policy, definitely, at least for me, I'm gonna expose myself a little bit, but I kind of lost my pouch in the first few weeks, and then my brother took mine because he lost his. So it was kind of hard to because I was told you have to pay $10 to get a new one, and I was not willing really to put in that money towards it. If I could just put it in my backpack, and I know I won't look at it throughout the day, because I actually have seen how it helps me focus, and I've learned I've gotten a lot closer with my friends because I'm able to interact with them at lunch. So it definitely has helped my learning, and I feel taking it out during class, there's more consequences and downsides than upside or benefits. So I feel having it in the backpacks just doesn't, we all sort of abide by the rules even if we don't have it in the pouch.
The fifth graders were very excited to receive pouches.
Fifth graders?
Yes, my daughter was so thrilled and excited. It was like a rite of passage to get a pouch. And I think she lost it on day 2. Mike, can you just describe what the open campus phone policy is?
Of course. So the policy is that students, when they are on campus, are not allowed to use their phones. there's an enforcement challenge as it relates to that because technically the Burke is part of campus, the Reynolds is part of campus. During lunch, we are an open campus facility. So students who are in 10th grade could go to Reynolds and have a picnic at Reynolds for their lunch. And for us to be able to enforce no phone policy there would require that we have staff present at all locations. We also have juniors and seniors who leave campus and drive to another location. And we do want them to be able to access their phones if there is an emergency. So, being able to distinguish when a student leaves the building during lunch, are they a junior or a senior, or a freshman or a sophomore, where are they going, should they have, there's the logistics around trying to enforce that would be really kind of at stake. And so we have made it very clear that the expectation is when you are on school grounds, you're not permitted to use your phone. It's been less of an issue now than it's cold. But certainly in September, October, we would go outside during lunch and they would see students on their phones, and so then we would start confiscating it. But that was just within the immediate environs of the building. We weren't walking over to a Burke to do phone calls or something like that. So if the goal was to really make sure that it was impossible for students to do that, it'd be really challenging and time-consuming. So that the efforts towards enforcement around that.
Based on what Ella was saying, it seems like there's a problem with the Chromebooks. Is everybody aware of the problem with the Chromebooks? And are we, as a district, putting that on our radar as something that needs to be taken care of? That they're really slow and clunky and
Yes.
old?
Yes, and I know that part of there's money that's kind of trickling through grade by grade, and what we're going to, I think, to speak in more detailed way about the planned phase-in of new devices. One tricky piece as it relates to the bring your own device, and the clunkiness of the Chromebooks is that it becomes an equity issue. Right? Because if the Chromebooks are not sufficient, then we don't want the only students who have access to devices that work to be the students who can afford a $1,000 MacBook or complete equity. So I know that the district has some phase-in money as it relates to some Chromebooks expire and new Chromebooks come online, and we did a slightly elevated version of it. But as we've talked to the tech department around some of the issues with Chromebook functionalities, they've assured us that we do have enough Chromebooks that are fully functional, and if students have Chromebooks that are really giving them difficulty, they can bring them in for service.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of big topics here. This, I think, is about the biggest, which is the Chromebook issue. For a number of us superintendents before this law landed, we were optimistic, particularly in Hastings, given we had a history in the high school anyway, with the devices being taken out. The way the behavior led that. About 18 months in, students had really acclimated to that. The concern was the other internet-linked devices, particularly at the high school, where a lot of high schools were substantially college-going population. You start to build in that BYOD, so you're used to that device you're going to use in college. So that was one issue. We did do a lot of work to, at least, for example, for science research, provide some flexibility there. Beyond that, then the other issue that's been very open here is that Chromebooks does give a way into things that you're trying to prevent from a distraction-free, so we have to look at that. Third is that this then pushes us into a very expensive area of how are you sufficient from an equity standpoint with district-provided devices. And this is almost where it becomes an unfunded mandate by the state, because to get this right, it's going to be a challenge, and we're looking at it, but it'll be a challenge. And we went into it eyes wide open. You're hearing honestly here from 4 key building leaders. We just have to keep working on it. So
I had a couple questions. I'm sorry. Someone?
I just like to add that the Chromebooks are slow, but they work. They work
that's
well.
what I was
And, there's always going to be complaints about, the situation in the school. Like, people complain about the food in the cafeteria. Like, the food is amazing in the cafeteria, right?
Can I quote you, Joaquin? Not on the
The food
cafeteria.
is good.
No, but I mean, you bring great reason.
No, he does.
You're a very wise individual
Glass
because
half full, yeah.
it's a problem we've also heard by and large because we are listening, we're paying attention.
Right,
And
yeah.
what you just said there is very important. There's some segments saying these Chromebooks are clunky and don't work. There's a much larger portion saying they are doing the job and fine. And in those particular academic areas where it was a struggle, i.e. science research, and Andy, you might be able to speak to that a little bit.
Well,
but-
can I just say, we also have spent a lot of money on computer laptop cards for science research, for those classes. So to that equity issue, now whether they're being used or not, I don't know, but they're available, and there are regular laptops that are available. I mean, when they're purchased and then they're put into the building, I don't know exactly. Then amongst departments, they have to use them, but I can tell you that, I mean, most schools, do use Chromebooks, except for some very, very wealthy schools who can afford to give kids MacBooks or whatever the case may be. But even with the Chromebook budget, just that alone, minimally, we're spending over $150,000 a year just to kind of replenish because we have so much devices, and that's not even taking into account like all the desktops that need to be constantly updated, all the smart boards, all the iPads in the lower grades and the assisted technology and all the things that go on. So, looking at doing something that would be more expensive would be really like a big budget challenge. And we actually buy most of our technology through a lease purchase agreement, which is even keeping that number much lower than it would be. And that doesn't even include all the backbone and all the structures and the phone replacements, which are $500 a phone for classrooms. So I say that to say, working on the technology budget, it's a huge part of our budget. And even the devices alone and all the backbone of our infrastructure, the endpoints and all the rest, I mean, doing something like that would not be sustainable for us, nor a good use of our money. And to Ella's point, and to all looking around the region, everyone is using Chromebooks. So, it's
We
working
don't have
elsewhere.
to, I don't think we have to kind of go to the other extreme and say, okay, we're getting all new Chromebooks. I think that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but I have a couple of questions. First, I'm very happy to hear that the intent of the policy, I'm hearing loud and clear, was met, so that's awesome. I remember, I think it was you, Dan, that said last year Chromebooks is going to be a problem, so you had an eye for that. Sounds like there are ways we might be able to offset, make sure usage for the new ones is, that they're 100% in use, or that there's some sort of a rotation?
There is
There are ways to do that, right?
There is a rotation.
I was just going to chime in with an anecdotal story. Like, I have 3 kids, and my 7th graders got new Chromebooks when they entered middle school, which was a real source of tension for my... There's even some flipping to give the high school students maybe more,
So
the modern ones.
Prior to
Sorry.
COVID, we only had a one-to-one initiative at the high school, so they were getting new Chromebooks. And when we brought that down through the last few years, we quadrupled the amount of Chromebooks we're buying. So at that point, most Chromebooks are good for, there's like a 6 or 7 year warranty. Obviously, as they get older, it becomes problematic. But again, we could address it just through money. We could put in where 9th graders and everybody are getting on their
Or
Chromebooks.
even like,
Or
and there, I mean, so there's ways like to spread the wealth, let's say, but then there might be more practical applications like too many tabs are open and get the
Well,
word
that's what
out
I
on
was
that,
gonna
right?
say.
Or just like IT things that might help with the lag, right? So
Yep.
I wouldn't like sort of immediately say, okay, all new Chromebooks for everybody, right? I think this
we're
is
not-
solvable.
I'm not saying
It's
that,
solvable.
sure.
But I do
I'm
have a
definitely
couple
not
of
saying
questions. I'm very happy to hear that the intent of the policy is being met. But I recall last year, when we wanted to self-monitor, which I was not a fan of, that there was a requirement for putting them away. And we landed on a pouch system as one of several options. I think they were $30 each, but maybe the replacement is 10. I have 30 in my head.
No, we ended up getting the knockoff version,
And then we
which
got,
was like.
we got a knockoff,
Yeah.
okay.
No, but it was still like 15, and then we actually had to pay. It ended up costing more because then we bought it through this vendor, and we had to pay a huge customs charge when they came in that we were never disclosed about.
Okay.
So it ended up being more like
Let's get them on the list
$17
of
a
not to
pouch.
go
And I
back to.
thought we were supposed to get money back if people lost them, which is
So-
our policy.
The question that I have, and I wanted to see the policy, is does not having them in the pouch violate the intent of the state's mandate?
So let me, larger context, it's really important the board called the question right now for this report, because at the end of the year, the superintendent is required to submit a report, and it's going to really build on exactly what they themselves here as the building leaders said, because this is their presentation. I met, a day ago for you to run it by me. I said, great, bingo, go. Particularly at the end, your idea to go out and gather data. So the survey and understand. There's 660 districts in the state of New York, something like that. I would bet about 650 are in our shoes. And those who have the pouches, as Mr. Clayman and Mr. Waldeck and the team are finding out, those who have the pouches, it's a key backbone to have that. And because it's good where they don't have it. So going forward, and we talked earlier about the replacement around maybe 100 new pouches would be needed. But our sense is at the end of the year, we'll come back and recommend we stay with the pouches, because even if they're not used as extensively, it's something to point to. Now to go to lining up with the law, we can say we have evidence and data and information through the surveys, self-report, et cetera, that the spirit of that law is being met, and we have this system to go to if we have to, i.e. the pouches. So I think we'll be in a good place.
I would say, even minimal enforcement to get into the habit of the kids using the pouches, which I think was the goal of our interpretation of policy and where we landed, right? Because we had a lot of discussion around this. It wasn't like we just picked it out of the sky.
So I'm going to reinforce the good work of the team in front of you. There was strong enforcement up front. Part of that was investment in monitors, and thank you, Business Office and Marine, for that. So you had right at the front doors of the middle school and the high school the locking mechanism. So very specifically, students knew it was the law, that knew it had to happen, knew it was district policy and regulation, and here's the system. But then whether they're out of sight, they're not visible, they're not here. And so then you get into the good question: do you want these four leaders spending time chasing to get into a pouch if the spirit of the law has been met? And the spirit of the law has been met. So I think we just stay on that. We use the pouches as a backup. But I frankly, given all the instructional, academic needs and challenges, social, emotional, well-being pieces, I don't want those four chasing phones.
So I wouldn't frame it that way. I would say a spot check of each person take 2 or 3, pick a pouch.
Right.
And that will change the behavior and the usage rate. So, it's a small step. It's not spending a lot of time. Have every teacher check 2 or 3, random. And then it'll change the behavior. That's my opinion. You don't have to go to full-time enforcement. It's just really changing behaviors. That's my 2 cents on that. And I'm really glad it's working.
And maybe when you come back after Christmas and start a whole new kind of semester, you do the stand at the front door at the middle school and just remind kids that this is what we're doing.
Can I ask the policy, like what you said, Maureen? What is the policy that they're supposed to use the pouches? Did we write that, or we just said phones need to be away?
No,
not the state, the HOH policy.
The policy does not speak to pouches. The procedures that we've developed speak to pouches. But the district's policy does not explicitly speak to pouches.
And then, so it says some students are using the pouches in the middle school. Most students do not pouch their devices. We're using the pouch as a backup to reinforce that we're doing good work around distraction-free schools for the state, but how much money are we spending on the pouches if they're not being used? So how much total did we spend on pouches and devices to unlock and lock? What was the total amount of money?
It was maybe about 15,000 roughly all in, maybe a little more. We were supposed to get 8 back from the state. Roughly, we can get those rough numbers for you.
It was about that, and we got 7,000 back.
And then looking ahead,
it's still 14.
And looking ahead, the view was keep the pouches going because they're acting as a reinforcement to the policy. The point of the policy, and I'm looking around, and we put the link, and Andy, that's why I wanted the link right here in the presentation. It's about do not have devices to distract learning. We are 100% confident we've achieved that in Hastings, and that's what the policy is about. The procedure is the pouch gives us sort of, in a sense, it's also an accountability piece. If we find that phone, that's a place to put the phone, sort of as a penalty. It's a low cost to continue that. Our problem now, still in the spirit of the law, is the Chromebooks and the other access, not as much the functionality of the Chromebooks, but that's a path to distraction. So that's what we have to work on. And I'd urge the board to think hard about what's the question of the problem you're trying to solve. Because I'd be highly reluctant to say to teachers and others, please start chasing phones if they're not present and visible in the educational environment. Because I can tell you, walk in the building, it is a night and day difference. Night and day difference. And even on Chromebooks in the middle school lunches, you know, where it used to be literally 80% of the room was on Chromebooks. It's now maybe 15%. So these are dramatic changes.
So Bill, I hear you, and I think that is great and important, and I'm not looking towards policing, but I do also worry about creep, right? Because we had this policy, creep. We had this policy, it was firmly enforced in the beginning of the year, and everyone kind of knows, like I hear from my kids, like no one's pouching, but they're keeping their phones away. I hear about middle school lunch. There's still a few tables with Chromebooks and they're playing video games. But I also hear from students that they really enjoy the lunch and the socialization and it feels really good. And also the trust they have with their teachers. But I do think the occasional spot checks and maybe not the enforcement of the pouches, but the enforcement a few times a year to make sure it's not happening. And I think you're doing it, but the students still know it's there. Because I think if it's not a clear, we don't allow this, then it will come back, and I think that would be unfortunate.
Tara, did you want to say something?
I get the point. I just want to say one thing really quickly. I think the debate right here, the conversation is like cost versus impact. And I've done the honor pouches in my previous one. I've done them without doing the honor pouches with the cell phone policy. And just having this procedure that you're supposed to have your phone when it is found you are breaking not only the fact that you're using your phone, but you're not using the pouch. So it's like double enforcement on our end. So having this as like our buffers, for lack of a better word, actually helps us enforce it. So in high school we've had 72 phones that we found throughout the time. If we didn't have the pouch at all, that system, we'd probably get a lot more. And I don't even know how we enforce that. So just speaking in reality, again, before we don't want it to creep back, we don't want it to like start getting out of control. That has a lot to do with the front line. If we see it, are we saying something, are we doing something? And we definitely are. So I get that point. I just want to emphasize, if we didn't have the pouches, it would be so hard for such a small admin team. And we have amazing staff that are backing us up. It's very hard for us to actually force it out. So I just want to make that point. I know.
Just as a specific example is, you've got a student in a class and a phone falls out of their pocket. If you don't have a pouching system, the student says, I'm sorry, the phone just fell out of my pocket, I promise I wasn't using it. And the teacher says, okay. And there's your creep. Right? You have pouching, phone falls out of the pocket, the student says, sorry, I wasn't using it. And the teacher says, I know, but it should have been a pouch. Reported constantly.
That's a good example.
And so like that, over the course of a semester, multiplied by 500, by 1,000 students throughout the building, that's how the pouch, the optics of pouching help to ensure that we're able to consistently enforce the policy.
I had a couple of questions. Thank you. I love the fact that pouching is a verb. It's adorable, honestly, the way you all say it. So I know that there's like a phone pass. My kid, has had a couple of classes where they've used their phone in the instructional period. So when the teacher does like a lesson or with the phone pass, I guess they just say take out your phone if you have one, and then they get a phone pass. Like, how does that work, and like how are they kind of weaving that into the kind of instructional part of the class without kind of disrupting everything?
Sure, that's been very case by case. Teachers email us or come to the office and say, during this period, I'd like to use my students to use their phones, and we give permission, and then we let the monitor and we know that if there's a student who has their phone from this class during this period, then that's why. So we haven't encountered a need to be especially formalized about that. It's just teachers let us know, and then we do the communication to make sure they're aware.
We feel it works. Yeah, cool. And then you had mentioned you noticed more kids on headphones. Like, what do you mean by that? Like, I mean, are they just listening to music? Like, they're just on headphones?
So I just want to go back really quick on the
Yeah.
cell phone pass to make sure. So that's a high school only. At
Got
the
it.
middle school, Mr. Walden and I are completely enforcing. We're not using, there's no phone passes for any
Right.
sort of assignment.
That's good.
So that it will stay high school only. Additionally, to add the extra layer when we're talking about pouching, the extra impact that we get at the middle school is that they're not carrying around their book bags. So there is, if it's actually falling out of the pocket, we know you're not supposed to have it on your person at all. If you're not going to have a pouch, then at least shove it in your book bag, which is locked away in your locker. So we have that extra piece on our side. In terms of the headphones from the middle school end, I'm not seeing them with their cell phones as much as I'm seeing the one AirPod in your ear. Right, that's what I'm seeing the most. And that's when I'm saying, hey, so what actually is that connected to? Sometimes it's style, but sometimes it's actually, hey, oh, oops, my cell phone was in my pocket. So I will tell you we're getting that a couple of times, but that's really when I say what we're seeing the most in violation, that's what we're actually visibly seeing at the middle school. Middle school.
Similarly, we have high school, again, the open policy makes it harder at the end of the day. They don't have AirPods. They allow sometimes, I would say a lot. They'll go out to study hall, you'll see them walking in, go like this, they put them away right away.
Right.
But again, we're forcing them to get out there.
And then the other question I had was about the Chromebook, but less about, I think more about, we've already kind of talked about in the past the idea that the Chromebook is being used as kind of like a surrogate for boredom, right, with the kids, right? Certainly, I encountered this on a personal level with my kid in middle school, and so I guess how much are the kids using the Chromebooks? I mean, I guess you're saying you're not seeing them at lunch, which is great. We want our kids, hanging out, talking, and all that. But are we seeing a large increase of the kids using the Chromebooks as now a surrogate for their phones, or I mean, is it a little bit like, because we've already had this issue where we don't want our kids on Chromebooks using YouTube or whatever other things they're getting access to that we know they shouldn't. But if they're using their Chromebooks now, if they're increasing the use of the Chromebooks, does that defeat the purpose? I mean, or is there a balance? I mean, that's really my biggest question.
At the high school, the Chromebooks haven't been as much of an issue, but I know.
Yeah, so at the middle school, I think, again, it's very varied by student. And if there's a student who is really connected with their digital world, I think that there's a potential problem where the district has given them a one-to-one device. And on one end, we're saying, you can't use your phone, but because we've given you a one-to-one device, we're inviting you in some ways to engage with this device. And I would ask that we just be thoughtful in how we might police that in the future. It's something that I continue to think about. In my role, potentially moving away from one-to-one in certain settings might be beneficial, and that in most situations that looks like the teacher being the one who is the one who makes a discrete decision about, during today's lesson we're using Chromebooks. The cart's there in the corner, I'm gonna have a protocol for getting things out of the carts, and that's an alternative to sort of the one-to-one, which currently is the practice for our fifth graders. So we see it at FMS, and our fifth grade teachers are in some ways the gatekeeper to the devices, and I see that being productive. That whether we want to incorporate that in more grade levels or if we think it's developmentally appropriate to do so, now that we're seeing sort of the ramifications of this policy creating in some ways a new issue, that's something that I would be more than willing to engage with.
Yeah, I mean, is this on?
No.
They cut me off.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, if we think this is an issue, right, where the kids are now,
They're all off.
that's something I'd really like to dive into, right? I mean, I think you called it out last year. Like, we can see it now.
Do you want to just wait because the mics
I'm going to wait. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Oh, no, here it comes. It's going to be like a talk show.
Is this on? Yeah, I mean, I think if we're seeing this new problem, right? Because, you know, to Bill's point, the spirit of this law, right, is to get our kids off of devices. And so if the unintended consequence of,
Well, yeah, it is within schools.
right,
We only have so much reach.
sure.
And then it's
You're
into
giving
the
the
partnership
Chromebooks,
piece.
But
Yeah.
the school is producing the Chromebooks for the middle school students, right? Otherwise, my students wouldn't have Chromebooks.
Yeah, no, I think Dan hit the nail on the head. And we knew we were going to get there, and you're going to get a tech update. Wow, look at that. Tech update from Melissa Szymanski later in her report. But the tech committee is actually looking at this very issue, is where are we on one-to-one, when is it correct, when it is not, to get just much more efficient, effective, dare I say optimal, about the use of technology and devices. So we've been, for the longest time,
Yeah.
because for 16 years I've been leading districts one-to-one.
Right.
I mean, I got to say, Greenwich was way out front. Pre-K to 12, 15 years ago, we provided devices to every single of the 9,000 students. iPads, Chromebooks, all the rest. So I'm part of the problem, right? So now it's saying, how do we understand it? And Dan hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
And I know the three agree with him. Now we got to fine tune it, get specific, and as you'll hear later, on a brief update from Melissa Szymanski on the tech committee, we're trying to sort that out.
I wanted
That's
to
helpful.
think, oh, sorry.
So I agree
Yeah.
totally.
I want to thank you for your thoughtful comments. Like, it's wonderful to hear from you and to hear all of your thoughts, each and every one of you. And something from what I'd love to know is how would you like the board, the district to support you more in these endeavors? Because I think what you've been doing has changed the culture of the school and has made it more fun, more engaging for students, which is wonderful. Especially when we know there's a mental health crisis, like there's so much going on attached to social media. So when you're looking at us here, like how could we be of help? What would be helpful to help you, enact your visions around this?
That's such a good question. You put us on the spot.
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, you don't have to answer that now, but
Yeah,
you
you
should
can
think
write us a
about it.
note.
Think about it.
We will confer and get that.
My,
Unless one of my colleagues has.
anybody else questions?
I have a question. Regarding the survey that you're going to be giving out, what are the themes of the questions you're asking for the students and staff, and when can the board expect a synopsis of what the responses were?
Sure. So we're administering in late January. We've kind of taken a preliminary stab at the questions. I think we're talking about an individual's experience of what it feels like to be in a phone-free environment, just to kind of speak to part of what Alice spoke so eloquently about. They now understand how little how joyful it can be to not be connected to my phone. And then feedback for us about enforcement and kind of where things feel equitable, where things feel like there might be opportunities to tighten things up. Those were the predominant division of the survey that we've worked on thus far. But we're in the early stages of development.
Thank you.
So I want to just thank you all for coming and putting this together, the presentation. I know the board has been thinking about it and kind of eager to get feedback, as I'm sure parents also are. And I think of it as a work in progress. And I think we would probably all agree that the spirit of it has all good intention, truly. And I guess for me, and this is not expecting a response, but I think if we agree that this is basically a positive thing, how do we sort of not let up and improve on it without it not being too much of a burden on teachers and administrators? And I think that's what we have to think about and sort of look forward to sometime later in the spring hearing more about where we are. I think it's very exciting, and everything you hear and you read is that it's a really positive thing for kids, and Lord knows we need it. So, thank you.
I think Joaquin.
Yeah, I just had one thing to add. We were talking about maybe changing the one-to-one policy, and because you want to avoid giving students Chromebooks and then having them on it like the 8 hours that they're home after school. And I'm just thinking that I think the one-to-one policy is okay, and it would be maybe a bit of a hassle for students like 8th graders to be told like everyone go to the cart and get your Chromebook and then put it back.
I
Yeah,
agree.
and-
We've done it and it didn't work well because people weren't charging the Chromebooks, especially in the middle
Yeah.
school, there's not enough time. We
And then
had-
you-
It was a problem, that's why we
Yeah,
went to
you
it,
also
'cause
get
it
like,
was
mine doesn't
unmanageable.
work. Like if you know your
Yeah,
Chromebook works,
constantly, yeah.
mine's been working for like 6 years now, so it's fine. But, and also, you know, if you have a kid at home who has a Chromebook, where do the parents come in and say, like, is it the school's job to say, don't be on it? Like, they have, you know, guardians at home who are going to tell them, you have a Chromebook and you've been given it to do your work, and I can give you like an hour on it if you want, but after that you got to turn it off. So I think in my opinion, I think that policy is okay for now.
So Joaquin, I'm going to have you sit here from now on. You got it, man. I'm going to leave. You got it. So I want to say thank you, because I, for one, as superintendent, really try and protect your time, because your clock doesn't change tomorrow morning. You got to be here early to be there welcoming and doing what we have to do. I know the board very much enjoys hearing from you substantively, and also in terms of what you're sharing in terms of your real dedication to what we're doing. So thank you
Agreed.
for making time tonight
Thank
to be
you.
here. I really appreciate it. I know Maureen, Melissa, Jean, Melissa joined me in that appreciation. So thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you very much. So I think we'll move on to the presentation about the restoration of the Farragut and progress on the bond referendum with Matt, Rena, and Kevin.
Yeah, okay, I got you one.
Build it.
Okay, so,
We lose our superintendent?
yeah, I think they can
Yeah.
I can
start with
He's
their
take his
really
introduction.
chair.
lucky to come up
I
here.
think
know what
it's time,
Why
Joaquin.
don't you come up here and sit? Joaquin?
Yeah, yes, yep.
Yes.
Well, thanks for having us back tonight. We're here to report on the progress of the restoration of Farragut and our design progress as we move forward through the design of the bomb implementation. So, if you don't know my name by now, my name is Matt Molto. I'm the principal of Land Associates. We have here Kevin Sawyer from Triton Construction, Rena Mandy, and also joining us in the background here is Adam from BDO. So, we walked the building today. It was a pivotal milestone to understand where we are going and how we're going to get there to open up the building next week. And we feel really good about what we saw. We had a great meeting last Friday. All hands were on deck today. All hands were on deck last Friday to evaluate progress. But I sort of want to give a recap for the benefit of the board, for the benefit of the community who may be listening. Prior to this project starting, prior to this issue emerging, there were over $2.5 million of improvements identified throughout the Farragut Middle School, from building systems, to flooring, to ceiling, to lighting, and sort of the less priority items that relate to the modernization and the cosmetics and aesthetics of the instructional lab. So what you see up there are some examples of some of the issues that we've observed, some of the deficiencies that we had hoped to correct over the next several years of working with the school district, and some of the items that became opportunistic to modernize as a result of the water dam issue we experienced. On the left side is a photograph of one of the classrooms where you see an impressively low ceiling that comes in on plane with the upper sash of the window. You can see in the top right corner how that suspended ceiling was treated to avoid a conflict with the upper sash or the upper mullion of the window. And on the bottom right corner, you see an example of the flooring threshold going from the corridor into a classroom. There are wood thresholds, there are metal thresholds, there were all types of flooring. There was flooring, overflooring, there were subfloor issues that were concealed by layers of flooring. And this part of the wing, let's be honest, it needed a facelift no matter what we did and no matter what happened.
I just want to say one thing in terms of the 2.5 million, and Matt and I just discussed it just this last time, we're going to talk about this, but that was just the improvements that were identified for the current BCS. In actuality, it didn't include the fire suppression system, which was another $1 million on top of that. So even beyond what was identified in the current things that needed to be immediately addressed was 2.5 million. But there was work beyond that we ended up doing with it, with the restoration, which if you think about the amount of money that we've discussed previously, that the district also paid toward the construction, it well exceeds the money we had to put in, because we ended up getting about, the entire area is improved, but there was a fire suppression system for $1 million that was not included in that $2.5 million number that we also upgraded in the work we did.
That's a good point to make. Thank you. These are items that we observe visibly.
Yeah.
Building condition survey requires us to go look at it. We need to have access to it.
Sure, Mike's
We have to see it to evaluate it. And
His
some of
mic?
the items that are identified are.
Is that? Yeah. Okay, yeah, sorry.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah,
Can hear you
speak-
now.
yeah, better, is that coming
That's
through
all
the
right.
video?
So these are items that are readily visible. Some of these items that we feel are necessary to address in a 5-year plan are aesthetics, and some of those items don't make a 5-year plan because they are aesthetics, and there are more important issues to address. So of the $2.5 million identified, some items that may be related to aesthetics didn't make the list. And so I think Maureen brings up a good point. We did discover items along the way. Next slide. And as you all know and are aware, the loss, this was immediate, it was urgent, it was an emergency. School and students were displaced. There's 24,000 square feet of damage at 3 floor levels. 300 students had to instantly move and be displaced throughout the rest of the Farragut building. As you can see, the photo in the center is the actual source of the damage. There is a bottom left side. I believe that's the location where that sprinkler had broken above. And you see opportunities when certain materials are removed to make the instructional space better. So when you look at the photo on the right, you took down the suspended ceiling and you start to reveal the true height of the space as it was originally designed and constructed. You saw the original tin stamped ceilings, which is wonderful. We preserve them. You see the height and the volume of the instructional spaces when it's not obstructing a portion of the daylight coming through the windows. So I mention that because in this loss there was a real opportunity to transform the Farragut. And on the top left corner, this photo is on the upper floor level with the 3rd floor level. This was originally, it looked like a sloped ceiling with a full height, we'll call it a multi-purpose space. I don't think we're really certain of its historical use. Could have been
Yeah, a library, we think, yeah.
Likely a library, but you see that the original construction over the years of use has been concealed. And as you peel these layers back and you start to reveal the history, there's true opportunity to transform the instructional environment and bring some of that original character back to life. So Lynn was out on the site. The school district responded urgently. I believe that everybody did what was in the best interest of the school district in handling this as quickly as possible. We were 5 months into a due diligence process of planning a referendum, evaluating your buildings, and this happened. And we were 5 months into understanding how the school district worked and having the appropriate staff on our team working on this building and on the school in the school district. And all of a sudden, we had to reprioritize and make this the highest priority at our workplace and in the school district. So everybody here, the board, the administration, kudos to everybody who pivoted really quickly to take care of this issue. There were a lot of systems that were replaced, from PA systems to mechanical systems, wall partitions that we discovered, metal studs that really weren't constructed in accordance with modern standards. So as you pull back the layers of material that were damaged, we discovered more and more issues that needed to be resolved once they were exposed. There were opportunities to reconfigure instructional spaces to provide better environments, to provide better amenities, finishes and casework that was identified as being outdated and in need of replacement could be rehabbed. And so there was a true opportunity to work with the school district and their insurance adjuster to address this unpleasant. And so that brings us into the current time frame. These photos are from about a week to 2 weeks ago. Casework was just installed. You can see on the bottom left corner, probably not the best photo from a daylight standpoint in terms of how it hits the floor, but we will be putting up window coverings, and you can start to see the color scheme that Rena and her team had planned and put together. The collaboration between Len has been nothing short of wonderful. They've been a great asset and a partner to us and to the school district. So a 24,000 square foot renovation project in the course of a year that happened in an unplanned fashion has now unfolded and is ready to be reopened to the public. And so we're really optimistic based on what we saw this morning that the community, the students will walk back into this building and they're going to see something that they, when they left, did not look like this. They could not have imagined that this was possible in the course of a year. And it's going to be very compelling and I think inspirational for the instruction department. I want to remind everybody here that as Triton is a partner moving forward to the bond referendum work, unfortunately they could not be our partner for this particular project. So while Kevin stands up here in unity to describe the referendum, he was not involved in this project. So should you have any questions about what happened and how it transpired, I would respectfully ask that Kevin doesn't speak on our behalf. This was an unprecedented sort of event. There were financial shortfalls that the school district was experiencing. It was a true juggling act to work with the insurance company to be nicer. It was a challenge to work through the project with Renew, with the contractors that were hired. This was an atypical project that was being designed and constructed at the same time. There were no contracts for land in the school district to enforce, which makes saying to a contractor you have to complete it by this date very difficult. It also makes telling the contractor he has to follow traditional procedures like submittals and shop drawings very challenging. We worked through those challenges with the school district to try to streamline and deliver the project as quickly as possible. I want to celebrate the completion of the project and really give credit to Joe Martirana and Maureen. Maureen has done a tremendous job in balancing the financial duress imposed on the school district in a really unexpected way and figuring out how to be the grease to make things go. I really think there's an underappreciated aspect to Maureen's leadership here. To Joe, please, if there's any thoughts.
Thank you, Maureen.
Yes, thank you.
He's done a tremendous job. Joe Martirana has done a tremendous job in applying his own personal expertise as an electrician, as a person who understands construction, to get his hands dirty, to help the school district minimize the cost exposure, to work on the project directly, to provide us with supervision when we weren't there, to ask questions when needed, to encourage us to be more engaged if necessary, and to be our eyes and ears in the ground. And so Joe has really done beyond any director of facilities I've ever worked with, has gotten his hands dirty. He's a complete asset to the school district of Hastings. You truly are blessed to have Maureen and Joe and Bill who have provided the guidance and supervision to see this thing through from beginning to end. This call of duty was really challenging for our team, in particular on the design side, to change our workload, to address any of the challenges that we had to confront along the way. So we're really happy to be in a place that we're at today. It was not punch list ready by a design team standards, if you will, but it will be ready for school reopening by next week, which is to say the building will be safe to occupy, the building systems will be in place. I believe anybody who walks in there from the public standpoint is less likely to notice the things that we nitpick over. So if there's a shoe molding missing because there's a gap between the floor and the casework, the layperson is very unlikely to see that. We wouldn't typically go in and punch list a space like that quite yet, but we're trying to accelerate the pace of reopening. So I will leave it up to Bill to discuss a reopening plan that's on our next slide.
Yeah, and I want to echo the compliments for Maureen and Joe in particular, and it was fortuitous then with, I'm going to use first names, but with Rena and Matt and team on site. Then later we brought Triton in. If we hadn't had that 5-month lead time when this crisis hit on Christmas Eve a year ago, we wouldn't have, Obviously, Maureen, Joe know who to go to fast. That was part of then the Renew link. But where we are, a note's going out from, Dan Waldick and Lauren Ario this evening to families, and it's basically this message that says we're phasing back in. So on the 21st, we will have fifth graders in fully. The day before, on the 20th, will be a heavy adjustment day, fully covered by other teachers covering for those classes. It helps that week is Regents Week for the high school, so the faculty have more flexibility, so we've been able to take advantage of that. And there's been incredible esprit de corps here. Is everybody happy all the time? No, because it's been very, very difficult. But remarkable esprit de corps, high school and middle school, high school, because there's been immense sharing of space. That's for the students and for the adults in the space. That's going to be tested Regents Week. We'll make sure those exams don't get interrupted at the high school, but faculty, staff, and the high school can help with this transition. So the 21st, that Wednesday, the fifth graders will start in their rooms. We will then gradually bring in the other grades, the basement or garden level, whatever you may call it. That's actually where the counseling office, the main office of middle school will now be in one classroom. That's probably mid-February. But we're fine with that coming on. We'll have the partial, thank you, to be in the building and be there safely. The note that's going out tonight from Dan and Lauren to the FMS families has a phrase in there based on the final safety checks, just in case we're working now with the fire marshal and all the rest. We have a punch list on that. Joe tells me he's quite optimistic we will meet that. This is a massive jump forward in the quality of the space for everybody, and also we will keep working on it because there are things that Rena as an architect designed has seen, Matt has seen, Triton has seen, Maureen for sure has seen, but we want to get people back in the building. It's already a gigantic jump ahead, as I said earlier, in terms of the quality of the space, and we will continue on it. So that's where we are. Some have asked about celebration. 12th of February, we hope to have a celebration about the space. Just one last thing, fifth grade parents, if you're listening, you'll be notified on this, the evening of the 20th, there'll be a guided, structured, open, if you will, house just for the fifth grade families and students, so they know how to arrive and where to go that next morning.
We should probably just move the 12th because the downstairs won't be open yet.
Yeah, that's a flex date.
Yeah.
We'll probably push it later.
So moving forward, we did get the third and second floor, or as we call it, the top and the middle floors. I think there's a naming sort of difference of opinions here. There's a lower floor level that is still under construction, but the upper two floors that are primarily instructional spaces used for classrooms will be ready for turnover to the school district and will be used next week. And we are in a great spot to do that. We did meet with the fire inspector this morning just to make sure there's no last minute, hey, I saw this. We would usually wait until the end to have them walk in, issue a fire inspection certificate, allowing land to sign off with a design professional to issue a substantial completion certificate, so they do have a certificate of occupancy. Having met with them this morning, they didn't notice anything that we hadn't mentioned already that is planned to be completed this week. So I would leave that open to questions.
Maureen, kudos to you. It could not have been very stimulating dealing with the insurance company over and over and over again.
No, it is not. It is not.
So
I've been reporting on 2 other losses we've had since then. So.
Thank you and kudos. And I don't know how we can say thank you to you for dealing with that. I couldn't.
To you
I
and
would have
Joe.
failed you all. But
It's
you
good.
are,
I mean,
you are
the
quite a
outcome will
treasure.
be, hopefully, it's nice to see it all together. That's the one piece. In the grand scheme of things, we have to look at the upside now, and we're getting a lot of that. There were so many unforeseen things that, I mean, Matt's kind of giving the Cliff's Notes version. I mean, everything that you could, right, like just upper ceilings and just, as they uncovered things, it just made the project, it's almost incredible that a capital project of that that type could be done in 12 months' time. It's actually kind of unbelievable, like in the grand scheme of things, that type level of work was completed there. So yes, hopefully we're right at the end, and there'll still be things that we'll have to go back, and Matt kind of referred to a couple things that we'll have to still deal with the contractor at a later time with, but we'll be able to reoccupy the space.
I just also want to compliment you, Maureen. I mean, this wouldn't have happened without your skill and extra hard work and the team. You all were like great. I mean, I think we took lemons and we made some lemonade. I had one just quick question on the LRC space.
Yep.
Could someone, it's a to be determined.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, was that on one of the slides? I'm sorry.
Final LRC space and coverage for special ed still to be determined?
So I'm sorry, where is that on what slide though?
It was,
Sorry.
it wasn't on these slides. It was on, I guess it looks like that. Anticipated phased return right above that.
Oh, okay, yes. So that was, there was a slight change to some of the spaces or where they were located. So I believe there may be one space that they're just trying to make a final decision on what space they would prefer to use. Okay. Not so much as that there's an issue, but there was just a slight flip-flop of spaces on the upstairs floor, which, you know, we let the special ed department walk the space, and there's a potential of them just kind of flip-flopping one of the rooms to use as reading instruction, and then the LRC would then be in a different location. I think the other piece is some of that work is still connected to our larger plan for the bond and where things will be located. So we have a plan right now, as I say, that most people will remain where they're going back in February till June 30th. Some people may change again for the new year. So, you know, there's kind of like the plan to get everybody back in, and there may then be some adjustments to that come September, and then there'll be adjustments to that again once the new space comes online. And that's with some of the LRCs in the long-term planning for where those will be located.
Thank you.
Just for confirmation, because I had seen that too, there's no compliance issue.
No, I think, yeah, I mean, the good news is I inform you a lot, the bad news is I inform you a lot. So since you got that, we fixed that issue and addressed it. So we're fine. So, and Jean, this is related to the resource room and all that. So we've looked at that, resolved it, the team got in and looked at it, so we're fine.
Yeah, I just want to say, you know, the difference, when you're building new space like we did here in Hillston, you're building an addition, that's the time where you're addressing things. Although we renovated it, we were dealing with a lot of compliance things in terms of ventilation and other kind of building systems. There are current spaces in the Farragut, and that's why we did the bond to address not only there's many of the rooms, because it's an older building, are smaller. So I think this is kind of an intermediary step, and you know, certainly with getting the space back, we have flexibility, and if there's any concerns about certain spaces with the programming that they need to run in there, we've identified multiple options for folks. But I don't want to make a statement saying that there are certainly spaces in the Farragut complex as part of the bond and as part of our long-term plan, whether it be special ed or other programs that are being addressed with the, you know, that were already a problem, I would say, that not every space in our building, the Farragut complex, similar to what was happening here, without the additional space, we can't correct those kind of other issues. That's what I'm saying. So there may be some spaces that are in any program that could be slightly below, right, what they need to be, but that's why with the bond, we'll you know, be able to fully address everything.
So it's like almost like a phased approach.
Correct, right, because this is really just getting back a space that, you know, existed, and there were. Sure. Yeah.
So in tearing all of the walls down, right, there is also an opportunity to make the classrooms bigger as well, because as you know, we have that chart of all the classroom sizes that really fairly minimal and whatnot. So we've been trying to balance both with this reopening, the bond, and then reorganizing after then, kind of this phased approach to how do we improve the size of all of the spaces, and so the top floor was reorganized to mirror the second floor, which allowed the classrooms to be bigger, and that LRC is, there are a lot of spaces temporarily in the lower floor for that, that may end up being even a bigger space once the bond goes.
Yeah.
So it's kind of all, you know.
They're all connected,
I just want to kind of note, the bond scope was only even phase one of kind of the master plan for those of you who have been along the entire journey with us, right? So the bond scope kind of unlocked this opportunity to then be able to rearrange some classroom spaces so that you could have cohesive department areas and whatnot. So I think that this is, you know, one step to being able to do that, but there's still other spaces, like Maureen was saying, that won't come fully online or cohesive until after the bond.
Yeah. And there's new LRC spaces being as part of this bond and the reorganization. So, I mean, some of it, we'll have some tweaks here and there, but I'm confident we'll have, if there's any concerns about spaces or them not being suitable for the students that need to be in those spaces, especially with our LRCs, we'll make adjustments to ensure that they're, you know, taken care of.
I want to just echo the appreciation to you, Maureen, and to Joe, and to tell you that we're writing into our calendar next year, no emergencies on Christmas.
Well, there was one this Christmas.
We're going to update you on that other one later. So, are you ready to move to the
No,
next?
Joe
board report?
and the whole team, the whole facilities team
Absolutely.
and they're still doing an incredible job. They were all up there, you know, well, and like when I left the building this evening, working.
Okay, well, moving on to the bond work. Proposition number one is the BCS improvements at Farragut Middle School and High School and here at Hillside. So our progress report is everything is trending either on schedule and or on budget. The masonry restoration work was approved by the architectural engineering reviewers at SED. The application is awaiting fiscal review, which means once fiscal review is completed, we will then have a building permit. So we're working with Triton, we're working with our partners to transition that package from a permit package to bid permit, meaning we need to add unit costs or alternates that SED doesn't necessarily care about, but we care about, building that into the bid packages. The MEP upgrades at the Hillside Elementary School were on a slightly different track. They were submitted to SED just before Christmas. The application is being processed. We did receive a response from SED to follow up and say, hey, we need to get a review ID number. What's going on? They said we received a flood of applicants just before Christmas. That is not uncommon, but this year there is a code change that takes into effect at the turn of the new year. So many of the design professionals, just like ourselves, are trying to beat the adoption of the new code and get that filing in prior to Christmas. So they did receive a flood of applications, and they have developed a little bit of a backlog. Contingent upon SED review and approval, all projects are tracking on schedule, and nothing really has changed in our messaging here. We do plan to start bidding in the spring of 2026. And also part of the BCS improvements are the upgrades, the MEP upgrades to the Farragut complex. Collectively, earlier on in the design of the project, we decided to fold that in to the renovations and additions of the Farragut Middle School High School and make that part of one sort of big package, one part of design. In a lot of ways, the work is intertwined and it was inseparable. And so it only made sense that down the road, the bid package is constructed by the same core primes and that you get some uniformity and continuity in the installation of the construction at a later date. A progress report on Proposition 2. I'm going to turn this over to Rena. I would say, though, Land and DPW are wrapping up the DD phase and our design team is ready to turn over a DD milestone set to Triton. Rena has a large set here in front of us, which is probably about 100 pages, and we're getting ready for our second major cost evaluation by Triton. The additions and renovations are planned to be submitted to SED in the spring of 2026, and this is a critical relationship milestone between Land and DPW, where Land starts to take on more of a prominent documentation role, and DPW turns over the design documents for Land to sort of carry the torch forward. So with that, Rena.
think we've seen this before, but just kind of start with an overview. And we also have some material samples here. So to talk about the cafeteria addition, we've moved forward with documentation, with coordination with structural, mechanical coordination as well, landscape. And so all of those in terms of documentation kind of went from this rendering image into the start of a design document package. See here. We had been specifying terracotta panels, and this was a question last time for what the material is, and are actually leaning towards what is a B option that we actually prefer, a kind of cementitious and recycled content panel that mimics terracotta and can have a wave to it and whatnot. So these are some of the exterior panel systems that we are looking at, along with aluminum fins and the metal portal into the cafeteria. Or out from the cafeteria, I guess I should say. So one of the first development coordination items was additional borings that were done in the courtyard and getting a real sense of what the foundation condition would be. Then we are in the evaluation of a full basement space versus partial cellar space, based on the fact that a lot of material in that courtyard is loose fill, probably from when all of the buildings were built. So they're not suitable for use for foundations, so we would have to bring in new fill for the foundations. So the cost of bringing in new fill to match up to the first floor versus building out the basement is something that we are still in the process of evaluating, but are exploring because that would gain some space versus carting material and we'll just block it up for the future as well. So that's the process of being evaluated. The elevator would go down to a full basement level or a partial cellar level, either one. There could be some kitchen storage down there, the cooler storage we're identifying down there, as well as a lot of the mechanical systems from your existing boiler room and electrical service going out to serve the site as well. The cafeteria first floor plan, we have been in coordination with the kitchen consultant, and that is being finalized with equipment lists as well, serving lines, circulation, all of that has been reviewed both with the kitchen consultant and the district's food service vendor as well. And so that was all developed as part of the design development. I believe last time that we had looked at this, we had already moved the bathrooms over to this side and the kitchen over to this side. I think in the original box we had the kitchen where the blue lecture room is, and we put the kitchen into the new build and the bathrooms and the breakout room where the blue lecture room currently is. So I believe that was the update last time as well, but just to get a review of that also. And that elevator does go to provide accessibility at every floor, so that provides accessibility at the first floor, and then as you go up to the mezzanine level, provides accessibility to the high school main entry floor. So it's the main level of the high school auditorium. What we did add since the last time you've seen this are 2 single occupancy restrooms on this mezzanine. So right outside of the high school auditorium and the high school lobby, there will be 2 bathrooms on this mezzanine. So you can see around this elevator, 1, 2, the drinking fountain there. So
Are you pointing at things? I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can see the light. No,
You can blow it up too if you download it.
All right.
Bottom right-hand corner, there is the elevator in the very bottom right-hand corner. Just above that, and just to the left of that, there are 2 single occupancy restrooms, the toilet and a sink there, and then that's all kind of in a little enclosure with a drinking fountain right outside the two bathrooms there.
I am, but I don't see where it is.
And then the doors that lead to the existing high school lobby are at the very bottom of the page. Yes. Thank you. So if you can envision walking through the existing high school lobby into that mezzanine space that overlooks the cafeteria, has the stair then going down to the cafeteria that also has bathrooms on the mezzanine level, as well as some seating space, flex seating space, which we think will be very highly used by the high school students to get them out of the hallway floors, eating lunch, and as additionally a small group instructional space, an additional conference room space that's on the mezzanine level that overlooks the cafeteria also. So, and then at the roof level, so this is the 3rd floor of the high school classroom wing. So that's 3 science classrooms at the bottom of the page hatched out that are not in scope. There are 3 doors that we have identified leading out to the roof through the classrooms that will be on alarm and on key card access only, that will provide access to the roof of the cafeteria as well for occupied space on the roof, plantings, whatnot, and the elevator as well goes up to this floor. You can see there's
I just wanted to ask you, because I had brought that up last time. So the elevator now it brings you, and that space is accessible not just to the science students, right? It's accessible to anyone that wants to take the elevator?
only through the classroom space.
Oh, you couldn't,
Brought the elevator up to exit directly onto the roof, but the elevator comes out into the high school wing, into the hallway of the high school wing.
okay.
Next picture shows it where it's got like brick on
Yes,
Right
there you
there,
go.
yeah.
You can see this.
There's no exterior door
Correct,
for the elevator.
yes.
Correct.
So does this remain just accessible to the science students?
It's monitored by the science classrooms. I mean, the school, if there's an event, the school can have access through the science classrooms onto the roof. But the roof for general use, not kind of for an event, would be fully monitored through the science classrooms and not have a direct path out.
I mean, I guess my initial thought was it would be a lot more equitable, right? We talked about kind of not just limiting it to have to go through the science classrooms and
I
like
think there's
limit
like
it
a
just to
safety
that.
issue if the elevator opened up to the roof. Because I think we do need to monitor it. That's why it's like key card access for staff only. I think we would just have to, I think it's not only, that piece I would be concerned about in terms of safety. Any access to roofs in a school building really have to be strictly monitored.
Even if it's key card access though?
Well, I mean, you figure if someone is using the elevator for accessibility, like actually needs it, what if they took it to the roof and came out? Like, I think that would be a concern for me.
So was it a code issue?
No, not necessarily. But I think part of the program wasn't necessarily for a full accessible roof. I think that that's something that has a lot of different points to it for use during the school day, for students, for parents. It's kind of like which one do we want to cater to for that? And we're also trying to be cost conscious as well, so not adding too much scope up there to be able to have an accessible roof.
Okay.
I think we just control the access to the roof a bit. I think, I think people could still, they would come out, they can come through, and other people can use it, but I personally don't know if I'd want the elevator to open up onto the roof. Like, I think the way they have it designed is correct, and the access, the other way is not to have the access, I guess, through the classrooms, but through the hallway,
Yes, we could.
which
take
we
that
could do,
portion, Like the math office and create a hallway.
Right. We could do that, instead of out through a classroom.
To some space.
Yeah.
So for this, kind of left
Yeah,
access.
I think Maureen, for it too, it's none of the time children or students will be up there will be unsupervised because it has to be during class time
Right.
through that room.
Right.
So if you had a door, kids always find a way
Right.
to get through a door. They could find themselves up there unsupervised. So I was kind of on that same camp with you last time we talked about this, and as I reflected on it, I was like, wait, I don't think that's a good idea anymore.
I would also add there are design and code indications to having an elevator opening go directly to the outside.
Yeah.
So you have an elevator vestibule or lobby.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So I'm
remember that
sorry,
came
I let
up.
that Go on for a little bit, I'm still doing my bad.
You would need an interior room.
Yeah, I remember you
get out.
mentioned
Really
that,
good
yeah.
at water showing up where we don't want it.
Yeah, that would not.
Yeah.
Roof, and so at some point we
Yeah.
said, okay, we need to draw the line here. And I
Makes
think
sense.
that, if the roof does get a lot of use, there are ways to, like I said, to carve out an additional hallway out through there that ends up being used for each event.
It's probably, Maureen, were you thinking what I'm thinking? I'm not sure that looks like the best room in the house.
Absolutely.
Up there, and for only, right, for only students, to be able to use that has to be through their science experience, and it's kind of a bummer, but I totally appreciate the safety. We cannot have someone jumping off of the roof or falling.
There's a lot of other things up there, with
Right,
all the.
right.
Within those boxes, that's all the mechanical and stuff. that goes
Yes,
to building.
but it is a super cool space up there.
It's very cool.
I know we've been talking about it a lot, but it's really kind of the least interesting space of all the spaces.
Really?
I'm glad, but,
We should keep moving.
Perspective, right?
So I think we talked about some of the landscaping before as well, so that's being developed with landscape architect into construction documentation, towards construction documentation. And then these are just some levels of the interior of the cafeteria. You can see some of the structural additions, the bracing, you can see the updated bathroom enclosure at the mezzanine, and then the open seating in the center, and the enclosed breakout space above, or smaller construction space above, the kitchen serving lines, and lighting, ceiling panels, all of that is being coordinated with both structure and mechanical. Moving on to the entry. So the development of the entry both with security input and with mechanical and structural as well, moving forward, and landscape design. So all of that has been in progress, resolving grade changes and different elevations of grade change, plantings, coming up with materials list and whatnot. We do have a sample of the exterior channel glass as well. There's been some questions about being able to see through or not. So this is a channel glass system, and we will have thermal insulation in the channel glass system. So if I took a light to the back of this, and there's what is anything through? Oh, yes. Thank you. And you'll see that it's really beautiful.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's pretty, yeah.
So we have some backlighting in there, so it
Obama
kind of
has extra
becomes
security,
this,
so someone
you
can
know,
drive up.
glow at dusk or early morning. And then during the day, it's really, natural light coming in, but not any sort of glazing that you can see through, posing any security risk for the entry of the building. So it's a really nice system for school entrances, for daylighting in. And so that's been developed along with structural support as well, and landscape, as you can see, with additional bollards and benching as you walk up to the main entry, and signage as well.
Can I ask a question about the landscape? We have a pretty vibrant pollinator pathway and native plant groups here in Hastings, and they're very involved in ensuring only native plants and like straight species native plants come in, and they've worked pretty diligent on that. And I was hoping that we could coordinate with those groups in Hastings or the landscape. I don't even know if we're near that choice yet, or that we can ensure that those groups are involved in that conversation as well.
Yeah, all native plants is part of the brief that landscape.
Nice. Okay.
At some point in construction documentation, we will get a plant list and ensure the district can share that as appropriate time for input and whatnot. So, but we haven't developed a plant list yet, but the brief of all native plantings.
Great, thank you.
And also the fact that there is a strong pollinator group in Hastings is definitely discussed and brought up in the brief.
It's a great idea, I think, getting people from the community involved that way.
Yeah.
These are some images of the entry, so coming into the security vestibule before kind of making your right or your left to go towards the middle school or to the high school. You can see some bench seating as well, built in and tucked in. Really open sightline and viewpoints for the security booth and a larger space for them as the main entry. Nice walk-off grate as well, so kids aren't tracking snow through the building. And then, of course, the point of the entire project, meeting space back for the middle school. We've developed some of these plans in further detail and enlarged, actually, I should say this, yes. We prioritized the classroom space over some of the locker areas and some of the locker usage in the last year. And the district has kind of learned a little bit from what lockers are being used and what lockers aren't being used to the benefit of the middle school space. And so we reduced the locker space that we had up in the swing, and we're able to gain that space into the smaller instructional space with the room areas and classrooms. And we also have the second floor of the Washington wing, the existing science classrooms that are being housed on the new floor that get to be reprogrammed. So this floor, the total of over 4,000 square feet, kind of gets to be reprogrammed after the bond. And so that's a little bit of what I was talking to before about all of the different spaces, kind of culminating in being able to arrange departments in a much more cohesive way throughout the school. That really comes into play, not just with the new classrooms up here, but also being able to gain that space on the second floor to be reprogrammed. And so that's something that we'll be working with the district to kind of define better.
I just want, we were just talking about it before, and I just also, we focus a lot on Farragut Middle School, which the majority of space is going to be, what we gain here, they're going to gain the lion's share of the space. But by doing this also and reprogramming some of the space that Rena's speaking to now, it does, it then gives back space to the high school that's currently being used by the middle school and other wings of the building. So like the step now we're talking about here, once this is reprogrammed, Then there'll be a reprogramming of I guess, is that Washington? That's not Washington Wing. Yeah, the first floor of the high school wing. There's currently a lot of those classrooms are being occupied by middle school students, which then they would come back to the true middle school, and then the high school would also be gaining instructional space from this reorganization. So it's, just to be clear, it's not mostly driven by Farragut Middle School, but also the high school, and all programming will be improved with this.
Lockers and larger, smaller instructional space.
And you wouldn't be able to see, we've talked, it's nice that imagery, like these small
Yeah,
or
the
L,
framing
yeah.
goes further up so that you don't see into the room. It's kind of just like
Yeah, you wouldn't see the students.
hallway coming into that room. And that's really the overview. This is really what we've been working on. We just gave you a little taste of some of the drawings.
Thank you.
Back to that.
Yep.
So, Proposition 3, progress report on that. The design is complete. The project was approved by our architectural engineer and reviewers of the State Education Department. Once again, application is waiting for fiscal review. This project was submitted in tandem with the masonry upgrades on the exterior of the building. But once again, bidding is trending on schedule and will occur in the spring of 2026. And the plan continues to be construction starting in the summer of 2026. Weather permitting and everything unfolding as planned, the entire project will be completed by the fall of 2027. And we understand the school district's need and interests of opening up portions of the field when they become available. So I think the heavy design lift for land for our consulting team for Propositions 1 and 3 is mostly done. We are getting to the point where we are going from hearing from land to hearing a lot more from Kevin and from Triton. So moving forward, you're going to start to hear a lot more of these updates in comparison to costs and in comparison to bid outcomes from Kevin's voice from Triton. So with that, I turn it over to
Hey everybody. As the process is going through the design, the various design phases, for all the different projects throughout all of the propositions, we've been tasked with doing evaluation of what the costs are at various stages of the design process. And so each project within each proposition has its own estimate that we're doing and tracking to make sure that we are staying within the budget guidelines that were set by the approved bond by the committee. And so far, we're in DD design development in some aspects, we're in schematic development in other aspects. Right now, we are tracking on or about what the budgets are. We do have a series of meetings coming up. We have a reconciliation meeting that's coming up tomorrow to talk to, which helps us further evaluate the costs and also talk about some design ideas that we can either implement if we're looking to save money or if we're looking to spend a little bit more money within the budget. So those processes are happening right along. But the general picture that I wanted to share with you tonight is that so far so good. Right now we are tracking right where we want to at this particular stage. And as we keep going along and developing the project more, we're going to continue to do more estimates and make sure we continue to stay on target. As Matt had mentioned, we are going to start playing more of a role in these conversations about where we are, not just about where we are in terms of the estimates and, versus your bond budget. But we're also going to start talking about things like logistics. How are we going to build rephasing through that? How are we going to get people into spaces around your educational process, your students, and your teaching and how they're teaching? So these are very important things that we're going to start looking at. We're also going to do what's called constructability, which basically means we're going to take a look at the design drawings from the eyes of the general contractor to see if we can pick out various areas that might be gray in the document so we can make it a little tighter, a little cleaner, so that when we go out to bid to the contractors, we try and minimize change orders. So we also will start talking about things like how you put together your bid package. The plan is already thinking about the development of the front-end documents, that's the specifications of the bid documents, and how we're going to structure it so that we can break it down by each individual prime contractor, what is needed for each project, how many projects, how can we move some of the Prop 1, you mentioned mechanicals, Prop 1 into Farragut Prop 2, so we get more bang for our buck to buy. I think it's a great idea. So we're going to come up with these types of creative solutions along with the administrative team to make sure we're all on the same page how we're going to do this. And then we'll be reporting to the board as we go along with this development, not just a financial point of view, but also a constructability.
So far, so good.
Matt, are you at questions?
I was just going to keep it concise and let the board know that in the future, you're going to see us make comparisons to these contracts and reference to these contracts, where we've always been talking about comparisons to the approved funding by proposition. As we break those propositions down into various contracts, in compliance with Wick's law for crimes, or as it's advantageous to the school district. This is our planned bid delivery, although contracts estimated to be about 10. We could go up or down if we decide that we need a GC for the MEP upgrades here at Hillside. We may add a GC contract for that particular contract too. But in the future, you're going to start to see us talking about contracts, how that's delivered, how that compares to the estimates that we've been preparing for Triton for the last several months.
Yeah, I want to, if you're ready to go to questions, if you go back to slide 26, I just want to, and Maureen, Matt, Kevin, you can do some backfilling on this. You'll note on this calendar the bidding for the field work as early potentially as March 16th. So I want the board to know we will actively come back to you before we put the bid package together. In the next literally week, we are meeting with 4, 5, 6 potential vendors. LA Associates on this has been excellent, lining up potential people we're doing some interviews with to better understand so we can put specifications together. Let me be uber clear, I'm going to act it out. In the spring, we presented a set of specifications, a lot of talk, a lot of attention to that, to be as environmentally sound as the market and all this allow. So we're going to look at that relative to potential vendors, then put the specs together as it relates to the bidding package. Board, be assured, it'll be a public meeting, we'll be sharing what that is so that before we actually go out to that bidding, there'll be a discussion about it. In the neighboring areas, some of the most environmentally friendly products are out there. We're scrutinizing those, really going to go on the field. We're talking to people and all the rest about how it is, because we do have a low bid requirement that we have to adhere to. So we want to be very cautious that, and I know I'm in a public meeting, but we don't want to back ourselves into a bidding corner, so to speak. So we're trying to work through all of that right now, but full circle, prior to that March 16th date, if that's indeed what occurs, on this slide, we will be in active conversation with you as a board, so you know what we're going out to try and have the market provide. Is that a fair summary?
Absolutely. I mean, the school district committee has been very clear about the sensitivity to synthetic turf, the products that we use here, how we do it, and in a very thorough sort of effort to bring those vendors to the table and have conversations with our client to kick the tires, if you will, on different products, to hear their pitches a little bit more directly than you might normally be accustomed to, but then to get the information you want in a more direct manner. So plan is next week, I think around the 22nd, to line up 4 or 5 manufacturers to show us their product lines that meet our bid specifications and the requirements that we communicated at our release.
And I would say, again, the strength of the team is here through Bob and then John Hanson, who's the Triton rep, very active actually on a neighboring district in their field. So we've got a lot of expertise to bring to this, which I think the board will see once we begin to bring things forward. And we are actively involving the athletic director and others for those coordination and checking issues. Anyway, we may want to go to questions now. I just thought that was important to flag that.
Thank you all.
I just had one question about the basement underneath the cafeteria. Was that, I'm imagining that was not originally scoped, but would there be an additional cost or cost overrun if we were to go forward with building a basement? As opposed to just a foundation?
Partial basement plan.
Right.
And based on the outcome of the geotech report and in concert with Triton's cost evaluation at the onset of the project, I think it's fruitful to consider gaining that extra space. It's advantageous to do it. If in the big scheme of things, we find to be reconciled costs tomorrow, and we have to come back to you and report that outcome. If we find that it's cost prohibitive, we may come back to you with a different message.
Yeah, maybe cost neutral or, because building, either, that's why we evaluated it, because it actually may not only because we want it, because it may actually be less expensive or the same, so. But we did gain a lot. I mean, even thinking about the design, there are things that we've thus far been able, like even with the elevator, I think that wasn't something we knew going in pre-bond, that was 100%, so.
I'm very confident that an elevator was going to be necessary to tile
Right.
levels.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessary to articulate the level of detail to the community with regard to the design. I think that was open to interpretation.
Right.
Of our messaging.
No, I mean, we've gotten out to go all the floors up and all the rest, instead of just having the first floor, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
It's
very
great to
much.
see,
Thank
hear,
you
and
so
see.
much.
And
Thank you.
update. Thank you.
I'm going to take a quick look at that terracotta before you guys leave.
We're going to go to the student reports now, so our students can go home after, and then I'm going to propose, I apologize to the cabinet, that we
Public comment?
reorganize and we go to public comment before we do the superintendent and
that's
cabinet,
fine.
because people have been patiently waiting in the audience, so.
Yeah. Did you feel it?
So for starters, tomorrow, the 14th at 6 p.m. is Senior Scholarship Night, and this includes a presentation with information on the application process, as well as questions that we may have in regards to the to the presentation, and also a scholarship fair right after. At this fair, we'll also be able to talk to representatives from each of these organizations that are offering the scholarships. Another thing this Thursday is the 5th and 6th winter concert at 5:30, and as always, I will say you guys should attend to congratulate them and also support them, because these young musicians are working so hard, and it's so nice to see that people have passions when they're so young. So, yeah. Also this Thursday is early action decisions are going to be released for many colleges, which is very exciting and stressful for many senior students. So as the results have come in, seniors have been submitting their decisions to the HHS Commits 26 page, and this includes showcasing our commitment, a childhood photo, and a song of our choosing. And so overall, the college process is long and stressful, but then it's really exciting to see where everyone ends up. Next week, Friday and Saturday is the 7th and 8th grade 1X. I went to the last year's one, and this was truly really funny, and I went with my friends, and we saw her little brother, and we were dying laughing the whole time because of all the skits, so I highly recommend attending. Also next week is midterm, so students will be off from January 20th to 24th, and this is also stressful, so many of us are making flashcards, watching online reviews, and committing hours to AP Classroom progress checks. And some things to know is with the change in teachers, this just came up today, that in AP Calc VC, there's been some confusion on the status of their midterm, whether it will count towards a grade or not. So that's definitely sort of frustrating for the students to have so much in the air. Another thing is the Spanish 5 sort of midterm will be the Apple exam, and it consists of testing presentational, interpersonal, and interpretive skills in speaking, reading, and writing. Also, a majority of students that I've talked to have 4 midterms this year, and some have up to 6, which is insane to me. So while I'm grateful I don't have that many, I really wish good luck to everyone on their assignments and tests. Finally, also next week are the auditions for the High School Musical Grease. From the 20th to the 22nd, auditions will be held in room 127, and callbacks will be on the preceding day in the middle school auditorium. And we are expected to prepare a short section of any song from the show. And so while it's stressful to audition, it's also exciting for many of us because it's truly the highlight of our year.
Ella brought up the Apple exam, and I'm sure you guys know last year the Apple exam there was widespread cheating, and so students there's a lot of AI usage. It was spread out over many days. You could come out. I think you could go after school to finish your test. So in the end, the students who were caught cheating, there were no repercussions. So I don't know. I wasn't on the board at the time, but I heard there was going to be parents were saying they didn't know it was wrong to cheat, or I just, maybe it's worth it to follow up and say there's, it's midterms week again, and to avoid something like that happening again this year, we want to be really clear as to what, it is clear, but we want to be even more clear as to what the policy about cheating is. Okay, so juniors, the junior class, we're starting to schedule our post-secondary meetings with counselors, so looking at what colleges, if we want to go to college, we want to apply to, and planning out our senior year, how to get there. And with that, our teachers have presented us to the new policy regarding recommendations for honors and AP level courses. So it's going to be different this year. Students are not going to fill out an override form immediately if they're not recommended for honors and AP. They're going to be put on a probationary period in third quarter where they set goals with their teachers, come after school X amount of times with me. Let's see if you can do well in these analytical quizzes, for example, right? And if you meet those goals, then yes, you'll get the recommendation. And if you don't, then there's an appeals process with Mr. Clayman. And there are students who responded negatively to the news, but I think I've heard that there's an increasing amount of override forms that are coming in every year. So I think it's a good way of fighting that issue, right? And also, I wanted to highlight the work that's being done in terms of newer, more diverse courses coming to the school. So in English class, I just saw I'm offered the class Eastern Perspectives on Global Events Through Literature. It's an honors class. So remember, honors class was the agreed, it's pretty ideal. It's a mix of rigor and prestige, you might say, that's going to encourage people to take the class, but also it's not going to discourage someone who is scared they might not succeed in an AP level class, right? So in the class, students will understand the complexities of major scientific, social, and political events by engaging in perspectives outside of their established Western lens. Super cool. I think I'm going to take it next year, if my schedule permits. So that's awesome.
And I'd just like to recognize and thank a number of key players who have been collaborating around that. First of all, thank you to the students for their voice and advocacy to increase representation in our electives for the curriculum. Thank you to our high school administration. Thank you to Sarah Walters, leading the English department as department chairperson, Sid Greenberg, who helped design and will be facilitating the course, Janice Mateo Toledo, who overlooked the description and had voice and input there. So there have been many hands in making sure this course runs. And I just want to thank them. I've been quiet behind the scenes, helping along with making sure that we're in a good place with this. We weren't sure if it would sit in ELA, if we would sit in social studies, but I just wanted to interject to thank a number of key players who really played a role in making this happen. Thank you.
And special shout out to the affinity group leaders, because they've been meeting with people from outside the school. And they've been told this type of work, it takes years, don't expect anything to happen, and here we are 5 months after they first came to speak here, and we already have a new course that's coming to school next year, so it's pretty amazing.
Those students have been key in the leadership. Thank you.
Let's go. And then to end, I guess we want to summarize a board liaison training meeting that we had when we weren't here the last meeting, December. We met with New York State Senator Shelley Mayer about how we can be more engaged with the board, how it can be more effective, and she told us in small districts and in schools where you have an amazing board and great, Hastings is it's a great district, right? So it's going to be hard, right? Because in other schools you have there's glaring concerns. There's not enough time for after school sports. There's not opportunities for science research programs. That was I think 2 people asked that question when they said, how can I get my board to try to get this type of class at the school? And, we already have that here. So when it comes to us being able to engage with you guys more and help you out, it's, I think we're going to be the most effective when we know what you need, when we know, like, what is it that you guys need from us, what information, what perspectives do you guys want from the student body. So we saw, we prepped a little for today, like, there's going to be a meeting, a presentation about distraction-free schools. So we're able to tell you, and we're able to, like, give you what is happening. Are students using the pouches or not? What would it look like if they could use their personal devices or not? So in the future, just if there's anything that you guys need to know from the, if there's any perspective you guys need to know from the student body, let us know, and we'll be able to get that for you.
Yeah, that was great, both of you. We appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Yes.
And
great job.
Thank you. And before the break, I had the pleasure of going to the student union lunch, as did David and Maureen. It's always great to go and to just sit across the table from the students and listen. And I think Dr. McCursey asked the question of, what do you need from us, or what do you just need in general? And everyone looked at us and said that they need mental health support in the high school. And one young woman who was a junior really was quite passionate in explaining that it's lacking, and it's a big void. And she basically said, nobody's asking, how are you? And I find it to be sad, and a sad irony that here in Hastings, where every other person you talk to is a psychotherapist, but yet here we are in our district with such a void in mental health support. And I'm going to talk about this at every board meeting because it's so important. I shared a program that is being introduced in many public high schools around Westchester around mental health CPR for students to be trained, and then for some staff members to also be trained. I shared it, and it's now with the guidance team, but I will share it with all of you. It's not that much money, but it's one thing that we can do. But it was, Ella, I think you mentioned the word stress in your report just now, multiple times. And everyone talked about the stress around applying for college. And there was a general feeling that no one is doing anything just to do it. It's all for the college application. And Senor Lopez, who is the advisor to the student union, was saying he sees it every year, it's getting worse. And his big wish is that no one would apply to college in their senior year, and they would just enjoy high school. And then when they graduate, get a job and apply, in your 13th year. And obviously that would take a whole movement because of peer pressure and all of that. But it was very moving, and it's a real alarm for all of us when students look directly across the table from you and say, we need this. So you were both there. Thank you for sharing your perspectives, and it's so important. We need to keep talking about it.
Amen. Thank you, Teresa. And I hate to pivot because I think it's so important what you mentioned.
Pivot.
But I also wanted to pick up on something you both mentioned, and the issue of cheating in the APLA exam. I'd heard about that as well, and I remembered this year at the beginning of the school orientation, the high school leaders had spent some time talking about what cheating is and defining it and academic honesty, and I thought that was a really good step forward. But to your point, and like hearing from the students, like that's important. Because it actually intersects with mental health and it intersects with your feelings about your school and your own efficacy. So I'm glad that you brought that up, and I hope that we'll continue these conversations as exams are right on the horizon. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you both.
Thank
very
you
much.
both.
Thank you.
Go
Hey,
home.
good luck on your midterms.
Yeah, go home and bring more. You asked what we need from you, and we need you to bring people here to talk to us about this, the mental health support they need in the schools.
Thank you, everybody.
Oh, yeah. I said that before. So we're going to skip ahead right now to public comment. I think there's a list, and going to remind people to please come up, speak into the microphone, introduce yourself, and say if you're a Hastings resident, please.
I'm going to stretch out a little bit. Well, yeah, it's so cramped.
I think.
It's so cramped over there.
You go first.
Can you, somebody
All
help?
right, let's
please,
help
with
you.
the mic?
Let's help you with that microphone. You gonna hold it? Yeah, it's cool. Just make sure you hold it close to your mouth, all right?
I just want to remind people that you have 3 minutes when you're doing public comment.
And can you kindly state your name?
Where's Melissa? I'll set a timer.
My name is Elliot Listella. Hello, everybody. I'm a fifth grader at FMS, and I want to talk about turf. That we could spend $8 million on something else, like food at Hillside, giving the money to the board, maybe even some of the classrooms at Hillside or FMS. Turf is not healthy and has more injuries than grass. One of my questions is, how can you keep me safe? As an athlete that plays at Berkeley, I play on a soccer team called River Towns, and we have most of our games on the field that we are turning into turf. The little black bits on the turf can make me very sick. And so that goes back to my question. How can you keep me safe?
Thank you.
Just put it on the thing. Go.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, my name is Nathan Burke. I have been a Hastings resident for 6 years. I have 2 children, one in 3rd grade, the other a rising kindergartner. Thank you to the board, student leadership for letting me speak this evening. I'm impressed by the recent change to reduce distractions in schools, but I'm concerned about AI. Tonight I want to tell 2 stories that hope will help the board as you craft an AI policy. The first story is called Slices. I recently dropped by Slices to get a delicious mid-afternoon pepperoni snack. If you've been, you know that Slices serves as an after-school meeting area for students from the middle and high schools. And on this afternoon, several boys were doing just that, working on some algebra. Growing up, it was a similar place for group study, especially when there was a tough test coming up. The shared study environment served to take the edge off the stressful time. What was unfamiliar to me, though, was a reference and a suggestion from one boy to another. Bro, just use PhotoMath. PhotoMath is a tool where you take a picture of the math problem with the phone and the answer with work shown is produced automatically. The group of students proceeded to initially huddle around the single phone that had the PhotoMath app copying the answers. In no time at all, though, other students with phones managed to download, configure, and begin using the PhotoMath on their individual phones. PhotoMath is an AI tool, one of many. I'm sharing this story to highlight an instance of there being zero need for adult teacher intervention in the process of learning to use an AI tool for the students at Slices. The students did not need special training. software engineers at PhotoMap Inc. made it easy for them. The second story is called Interview. I work for Salesforce as a software engineer. My team builds AI tools to automate sales and marketing workflows. Contrary to recent PR and press, the engineering department is currently trying to fill dozens of open engineering roles. The hiring committee that I'm on recently decided to revert our online hiring process back to an older process centered around in-person, handwritten coding sessions on whiteboards. A direct result of candidates en masse discovering they could use AI tools to ace our previous assessment proctored by remote online coding tools.
Yep.
We made an offer to a candidate called her Natali. Natali beat out 100 other qualified candidates with great experience. Why Natali? In addition to coding experience, Natali also demonstrated a deep approach to problem solving and a scientific method in her interview. Her undergrad required her to understand not just computer science, but calculus, physics, and industrial engineering, a curriculum full of pain and suffering. She could ask the right questions about a system and demonstrated she could do deeply challenging and yes, frustrating tasks with the simple and timeless tools of pen and paper. Her AI experience, while important, is secondary. These two stories outline my concern that modifying the frame of the Hastings Learned Portrait to include AI tools is a distraction from what I see the real world caring about. Hard-won experience dealing with frustrating, challenging, and boring problems using simple, timeless, and trusted tools. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello, thank you so much. I am Nancy Dodson. I've been a Hastings resident for 11 years, and now I have a 6th grader, a 3rd grader, and a 9th grader who unfortunately is now in private school. But I'm here to talk about Hastings. So I'm asking the Hastings School District to seriously reform the role that Chromebooks have in our children's education. I recently read an op-ed in the New York Times called "The Screen That Ate Your Child's Education" that talked about how the introduction of screens into school instruction had led to decreases in math, reading, and science skills, while countries who had severely limited screens in schools saw their students maintain those skills. I see the problem of Chromebooks in Hastings as threefold. First and foremost, I'm surprised at how much of my son's education, he's the 6th grader, involves him reaching for his Chromebook for assignments that don't necessarily benefit from technology. So much of his mental bandwidth and energy goes into figuring out the technology. How do I sign into Canva? The password is wrong. Can I log in? I'm getting a link to re-sign in and re-register, and that's sort of where the whole night goes. Clicking and dragging figures into slides, rather than actually focusing on thinking, learning, memorizing, or reading critically. When my daughter was in 8th grade, I realized it was already April, and I had never seen her bring home a book to read for ELA. And I asked about this, and she's like, well, we're learning about satire. And I said, so are you reading Jonathan Swift? Like, there's the famous, examples. And she said, no, they were watching YouTube shorts, and then they were going to make a CapCut video with their phone. Second, students seem to have their laptops open indefinitely during class time, and I can't imagine how distracting this must be. My son reports kids who spend the whole class time playing computer games or video games or watching porn, or the scene in Silence of the Lambs where Hannibal Lecter's in the ambulance, which he saw, which is a great movie, but not for the classroom, and he saw that scene in the class. It is actually my favorite movie, but not for the classroom. It would be so refreshing to have a classroom where each student just had an open notebook and pencil and nothing more, since the research shows that note-taking on paper leads to far greater retention than note-taking on a laptop. And lastly, students reach for their laptops whenever there's like free time at the end of a classroom instead of being forced to do the very hard work of social learning during the school day. And the ban on cell phones was such a great victory, and now I don't want kids to have another way to just retreat into school. Luckily, there are school districts showing the way, and I really hope Hastings can be out in front of this. Some schools are keeping Chromebooks out of the classroom as a default unless an assignment specifically would benefit from the introduction of technology. They're enforcing pen and paper note-taking. Some schools are even going screen-free, which may sound countercultural, but I think it would have wide support from the parents in this town. Our children's task in school is not to become efficient at technology, but it's really to learn to be critical and deep thinkers and good humans. So I worry that screens are indeed eating our children's education, and I'm eager to see learning policy take shape. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else?
extremely enlightening. Ariella Gastel. I've been
Speaking to the mic, please.
Ariella Gastel. I've been in Hastings for 27 years, a parent, a neighbor of Burke Estate. I have not been able to attend personally the meetings on the plastic artificial turf discussion, and I know you're all very tired of that discussion. However, it seems to me that given the growing trends of people kind of rolling back turf, kind of taking a pause on it, the increased adversity to PFAS, we understand that there's going to be a spec on that, and we know that the neighboring towns have also done, I believe, some analysis on PFAS and just the toxic chemicals that come from the turf. But I'm wondering if there's any chance that we can kind of relook and revote the turf issue in rise of the current trends in the country and the world on plastic turf. That's one. I also attended today the Westchester Coalition for Clean Water, and it was incredibly enlightening. I haven't been following this whole situation with our sewer system. Our sewer system is extremely old across the county. It is over utilized, and we are getting increasing problems with storm runoff, etc., which would be compounded by having an artificial turf. So flood risk, all the system that is currently already taxed would be additionally taxed. So I'm just sitting here thinking, given the concerns, given the fact that Hastings has always been a very innovative town, village, ahead of the curve, in light of the fact of this new, all the new information on PFAS and the problems with turf, if we can, since almost a year will pass during the vote, we could reflect on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
One other thing, I did learn at this Westchester Coalition for Clean Water, the use of porous pavement as a help also. I don't know if that, I was thinking of these guys when they were talking about the pavement and some of the materials that they're considering for the outside of the school, and something to consider.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Very thoughtful comments. Thought-provoking comments. So let's move on to the superintendent report.
Sure. This is in the public record, so I'll be brief, but I really would ask the board to spend some time with it, and then it's obviously, we'll be pushing it out later this week, as with all the presentations. And again, it's trying to bring up and celebrate some good news, and particularly regarding some of the good public comments showing that we really are trying to go less screen, more in person. And having said that, here's a good example coming from the elementary school, and I'm going to do two things. Turn around and seeing this at prom for me. So STEAM work at Hillside, cracking the code, as it's a nice description here about what's going on, old-fashioned materials, pen and paper, really thinking about how to understand things. And then there's some spirit there that you see, really some proud students, many of you know, showing about how they've built a code here. So then, learning is physical, so maybe this is the world's most popular sport now, I don't know, pickleball, but here's some students getting an early understanding of it at FMS and how that might carry forward. We are probably affecting the supply-demand problem for pickleball courts, but I'd rather get this kind of early skill in there. So I appreciate our PE staff and others connecting on this. Now, going to economics, this is our first economics team, and I love the fact that the advisor for this is one of our PE teachers. It shows that we've got cross talent in those who work here. And you can see the listing of the students here. They went off to compete at Rockland Community College and did very, very well. So this is something we're pleased to have through a Schedule B opportunity, and it's obviously quite.
No, it's like a new one.
Yes.
That hasn't been added yet.
Yeah. And then we've been repeating this constantly, just pushing out that on the 14th is local scholarship night. We want to, keep that word going. Quite importantly, on Monday we are off, federal holiday, a much-deserved federal holiday. I had some few words on this, very important words. Sometimes few words carry more weight. In my letter Friday that led into the Hastings happenings, I think I was lucky enough in third grade to be in my father's shoulders at a march, witnessing Dr. King in person in Chicago. I did a video on that a few years ago. I'm not parading that back out. But there are those of us who were lucky enough to have some amongst millions, and that was probably hundreds of thousands in Chicago, direct understanding of Dr. King, and others it's more history. But I think increasingly now, regardless of where one comes down on the political spectrum, that the core of what Dr. King stood for is so critical. So I think this is a simple slide on what's such a fundamental issue for us. And then we come to, you almost can't read that, but it's 8th grade parent night coming up. We want to give that some billing. And we keep reminding people that kindergarten registration is out there. And as always, we end this with what's the listing of upcoming events. And I thank Melissa D. and Kara Tamao for putting together this for you every board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. It's great, as always, to see what's happening in the schools. Maureen?
Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't realize it was first. I apologize. Okay. So I just want to report out on 2 recent property losses that occurred that are much smaller than the Farragut complex. You may have seen that there was a tree from a neighboring property that fell in through the garage and bathroom facility at Reynolds Field. That occurred. That was before Christmas. That was a week or so before, right before we left for break, actually. The tree has been removed and the area has been tarped to prevent further damage. It actually destroyed the roof and kind of into the bathroom area. As of this time, we don't know whether there were any structural damage or if the repairs will be limited to the roof and the interior finishes. We expect to receive the adjuster's report within the next couple of days. He actually just came today to do the assessment from the time we reported it, and we, secured the area so that it wouldn't be of any risk. The second one that occurred after that was on Christmas Day when an underground pipe broke and required immediate repair. That bill is actually on this evening under the business items. We had to bring in again, in these type of situations, we had to bring in a vendor immediately to do an emergency fix. That is a vendor that we use as our site person that we award each year. The repair will not be covered by insurance anytime you have an underground pipe, just like if at your home, an insurance company does not cover underground pipes. You may have remembered we had a pipe break up here about 2 years ago in the driveway at Hillside, an underground pipe, the same situation. Occasionally they will provide some money. We did report it to the insurance because the associated asphalt restoration that occurs above it, sometimes they'll provide some money toward that, depending on the scope of what was damaged with the broken pipe from underneath. And again, we'll keep you updated on what we find, but we do always put in a claim, even with an underground pipe, not so much about the pipe, but more so. Currently, we're looking at the condition of the asphalt in the entire playground area of the Farragut complex to see whether there was certain damage that then it cracks kind of further out. So we do have a claim in, and we'll see what comes of that. But there will be some additional work needed in that area come this summer because of the condition of the asphalt now. So. And again, just to be continued as far as the building down at Reynolds Field. I think that we're not sure what that'll look like ultimately in terms of the repair.
Maureen, I had a question on the cause of the issue, the pipe.
The pipe?
Is it just,
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think some of these just underground pipes are just so old and that feed into the system. And I would imagine just weather conditions, all the rest, but I think it's just really age, because I think so much, although we were talking about sewage, but kind of similar type of thing, there's so much infrastructure, for us as well as the town that is quite old. And the situation that occurred at Hillside was just basically an age issue where the pipe cracked under. And I feel like we have more than that happens, but I think a lot of it is the age of the infrastructure.
Is there any way to do like testing before, like to check it out beforehand to like?
Oh, they're 10 feet. I mean, they're
prevent,
10 feet.
I know.
Yeah, I mean,
nothing
things
that
like that
can-
are just kind of gonna, it just happens. I think there are times, I guess, if you're doing a large project and you're excavating an area, then you would, in fact, potentially, like if we were doing work, say, on the playground or removing the asphalt and redoing it, I'm just thinking like, if that would be the only time that maybe you would potentially, but again, you're talking about it was 10 feet down. So I don't think, typically wouldn't. It's not unusual, thankfully, it is a lot, a good amount of money, but not something that, that we were able to pay for, of course. But again, the larger concern is the restoration of the rest of the asphalt on that area, that depending upon, I mean, it wasn't brand new, but it was further damaged by the water damage that occurred from underneath. Yes, that's it. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Melissa, do you want to step in on curriculum and instruction?
Yes, and I'll begin by piggybacking on the Hastings happenings that went up, the Hastings highlights that went up. Andrea Bromberg, the high school Spanish club and the Honor Society, engaged in some fundraising by selling baked goods and handmade cards. They used the profits to purchase toys for the Neighbors Link holiday market. And Andrea personally went on one Friday in December to wrap gifts at their Ossining locations, and then families selected age-appropriate gifts for their children, and they left with thoughtfully wrapped presents. And so from a space of spreading joy and dignity and hope, I just wanted to make sure that that didn't miss the radar. More than 1,000 children in need in our community had access to gifts. And so I wanted to thank our...
More than how many?
More than 1,000 children
in our
need
community?
in Neighbors Link. Yes.
Yeah.
Not just us, just through the Neighbors Link program. Yeah, so they contributed greatly, and I wanted to recognize the Spanish Club and also Andrea Bromberg for her leadership in that. So that's the first thing. Another thing that was not in the written record that I wanted to speak to was to provide an update on what's going on at the Farragut Middle School in the area of mathematics. So not long ago, I presented a slide as part of our academic work and our ELA inquiry work that was presented, outlining next steps for mathematics work from November on. And so I wanted to just provide a quick update on what's going on there. So the first bulleted item was around hiring a mathematics interventionist, and this was posted in November, and we've not yet been able to identify a qualified candidate based on the applicant pool. So the middle school administration continues to stay on top of that. We also need it was an off-season post. So when we created that opportunity, we haven't yet been able to fill that vacancy. It remains a key area of focus. With supplemental 7th grade math, I issued a survey out to the families for the possibility of those who would be interested in and qualified to participate in 7th grade supplemental math. I worked with the building to identify 37 students who are interested and met the criteria for either before or after school supplemental math. We posted this position internally, and then running a parallel process, I also identified an outside provider who might be able to do it. And we aren't able to go with an external provider because there are structural reasons why that would sit with our own teaching staff. And we are in the process of continuing to figure this out. So there are certain positions and certain opportunities that are connected to students that are part of the teacher's overall responsibilities. So we're working within the structure that we have. We have agreements, collective bargaining agreements, so we're working to make sure that we still explore the possibility for that to happen. So that's been ongoing. January 2026 had a series of different goals. One was to pilot an intervention resource that is now in process, so that is happening. And another commitment was to pilot the group that was piloting to receive professional learning. So we did have that introductory training, so that has also occurred. There was a commitment to MTSS data management resource pilot. So we've done that. That is in process now. Finalization of advanced placement criteria to be noticed out to the community around access to algebra. This will occur, this finalization of the criteria will occur on January 30th. The pre-planning work for the facilitation of this session and the attendees who will participate in the development has already occurred. Not on this, but what's emerged through Dr. Stevens' retirement is we found ourselves in need of a mathematics department chairperson. So interviews have happened around that. We've identified a qualified candidate. We anticipate that will be added to the next Board of Ed agenda. So we're just in the final throes of putting a ribbon around that. And then we continue to move towards February, where we said that would be the space where we would determine the 26-27 middle school course offerings. So all of that is in motion. So I did want to provide an update and go back to what I said I would do and where we were with all of those things.
Melissa, thank you so much. That's very helpful. You mentioned the transition from 7th to 8th grade and that potential for algebra placement. Will there be a public meeting for families at that point? How will it be communicated? Because I know there's been some questions about that.
I'm not sure. Let me connect with the building level on how that will be basically noticed to families.
We'll make sure it's very well noticed. I mean, we'll sort that out, but last year it was not well noticed. This year it will be very well noticed, and we'll be clear on that. We'll work very closely with Dan and Lauren on that, but we will definitely do that in multiple forums, and if need be, offer the opportunity for a meeting or discussion, information session for interested families.
I do think it's been a complicated situation this year, and I think part of the question too is where does the nexus of power lie? Is it at the building level? Is it at the district level? I think there's some confusion around that too. So I think further clarity around the roles, who makes the criteria, who creates the classes, who looks at the data, all of that, I think families could really use some more clarity around. Processes and protocols.
Yeah, it's substantially building level guidance facilitated from the assistant superintendent. I had to step in on a particular issue late last year. Superintendents typically don't not. There was a decision not to continue with something, and there had not been good discussion with families. I didn't feel that was right. That was a double acceleration, so I did step in and provide that opportunity. A very small number of students year to year have availed themselves of that opportunity. It's maybe 5 or 6. This year there were, I think, 9. And we are looking going forward as to the benefits of that double acceleration, but that'll be all part of what's explained. But I think having the communication come from the building level, have opportunity to talk and clarify things, and where the building's backed up from really the assistant super on that. But the key leadership as at the high school on course selection and all the rest, similarly at the building level, middle school, hillside directions there as to what's happening.
Yeah, no, I think it's
key,
essential because you're talking about 9 children, but that's like over 37 7th graders whose course selection in some way has been disrupted this year. So I do think it's really important to be look critically at this.
I was answering the question, who's responsible? So it's really building level decisions. We're a backstop on that, a clarifying part on that. Increasingly, I think we want to try and be, and now we have 2 interims in those leadership seats. They are both math people, and which helps. They're also interims. So all of us recognize that this year the communication has to be clear about what the systematic plan is. We know it, and I think it's not just in writing, but then give an opportunity for some in-person discussion to clarify all those things. And to do it, as you see from what Melissa said, and we can do a follow-up email on what she read to you here.
No, I think that would
do
be
that
great.
sooner than later. So, I mean, it looks to me as if by February or so, be able to give some clarity, if not March.
Yeah, I think that'd be
So-
really helpful. Also, I think I know there's a midterm coming up, and families are really curious as to whether the midterm factors into the algebra placement. So I think these are all different pieces. But that aside, I would love to hear more about the process of selecting the new department chair for math, because it's such an integral position for our district, and it's one that families have been talking about for a long time.
Sure. So department chairpersons in our district are listed as a Schedule B position, and so it needs to be posted, and then we collect applications for anyone that's been interested. Whenever there's a vacancy, we conduct interviews, whether that's one person who applies or 3 people who applies or who apply. Because this is a position that is both middle school and high school, it is technically 6 through 12. You've heard me say previously that I will fall on the sword that 5th grade must participate in the work. However we make that happen, we've had an amazing response and understanding from our department chairs that understand. They have to, their role is 6-12, and also I'm happy to liaise in whatever way is necessary to make sure that 5th grade is included, because we've got to have a through line. So from there, we conduct interviews in those.
I'm sorry, when you say we, who's in that process?
So we conduct interviews, and that's Andy, and that's Dan, and that's myself. And so there are questions that are developed in advance. We make sure that, I won't share what the questions are publicly, but we make sure that they are aligned with the scope of the work associated with the department chair, and also enables the person to share their vision and their commitment and their strategy in a variety of different ways. And then finally, we debrief after the candidates leave the room, and then we make some decisions from there. So there is a formal process whenever we have a vacancy, and there's that's it. And then we move forward. Sometimes there are some pieces that need to be figured out. So in our model in the Schedule B, our Schedule B positions, our chairs receive a .2 release. Our teachers have a full-time teaching load, so it will likely require a shift in some way, shape, or form. So we have to figure all of those things out, and that's the typical process.
And then you make a recommendation
And then we
to Bill?
provide a recommendation to the board. Well, yes, to Bill and to the board.
In the form of the Schedule B?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was going to say, given that it's obviously an internal pool, is it possible, if someone were not interested, or if you didn't feel that the person rose to the standard, you would not make a selection?
Correct. We can choose to not fill it.
And then who would cover that?
It is not a coverage per se. It's figuring out what happens with all of those associated responsibilities. So there are 4 buckets of responsibilities associated with the chairperson role, with instructional leadership being one of it. There's managerial, there's communications, there are different portions associated with the role.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Melissa, do you want to just mention, I'm just thinking in light of some of the comments tonight, maybe the goals of the district
Absolutely.
technology committee?
And I don't want to fail to mention, we are about to start with Anshula Sobrin in February on the math work, which will help us in terms of determining course offerings and making sure we have a coherent through line. So that's about to begin. Okay, tech committee. It's in the written record, so I will give you highlights. We have been hard at work. It's a group that's very representative of teachers, administrators from across the 3 buildings, high school students, our data coordinator, parents. We have a board representative to establish 3-year goals for our district technology plan. Leslie Cardo from the Lower Hudson Regional Information Center has been our thought partner. She's the Model Schools coordinator. It's also really helpful that she's a state reviewer. So she's able to put on two hats. One is to support us as an instructional leader, and the second is to get on the balcony and say, this will or this won't pass muster the way that you're thinking about it as a committee. So that's been great. The 3 final draft goals that have been developed by the committee are there for you in bold. So the first is that, oh, and I do want to say, there has been work going on in the policy committee and some discussions around technology use, instructional tech and AI policies. And that's relevant because I want to make sure that, and many discussions at Chair Council, who ages ago developed, years ago, a position statement around AI. So I'm helping to kind of be the collage artist to help make sure that that's all together in one collage and that we're all moving together to enable all of this. So the first goal, ensure that when technology is being used in the district, it's being used purposefully and effectively to enhance student learning. And enhance was a key word that we wanted to make sure that was included. Goal 2, the district will explore the role of AI while prioritizing a commitment to authentic learning and academic integrity. There are different perspectives around the extent to which AI should be used in the district. And the technology committee is in an extremely healthy place in having those kinds of debates and discussions. And so our goal was not around amplifying the use of AI or making sure everyone's trained in AI. We were really clear that AI is part of our world right now, that we are at a detriment if we are not providing exposure, and at the same time, we do not understand fully yet the extent to which AI should be in or out. And so we have committed to exploring the role, and that includes costs and benefits, and then thinking forward together. And we will develop action steps related to this. The third goal is around strengthening collaboration between home and school by providing guidance to students and families on healthy device usage habits and strategies to mitigate dependency. So one of our action steps here could be to have Joaquin do what he did and help us along our way. I'm joking, but really thinking about education came through as a theme, and these goals came through analysis of the survey that we provided to families, and one went out right at report card time at the end of last year. We didn't have a tremendous response, we had a decent response, but we sent it again at the beginning of the year. And we actually did use AI as a committee, love it or hate it, we all found it very beneficial in helping us find themes and to arrive at some information that would help us develop these 3 goals. So they will be completely finalized during our March meeting. They're in final draft. They'll be in final draft soon. And then also at the March meeting, we'll be developing action steps associated with each of the goals. And so you can see we've already started to do that with goal number 1. This is really in pure working form. This is really like people were at the table saying, here are some things we're thinking about as necessary action steps related to goal 1, but I did want to put them forth for transparency as some examples of what it would look like to flesh that out. And then from there, these need to move into an action planning template so that these can be implemented. So who, when, where, how is this happening, each of these.
Okay.
So that's an update on Tech Committee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's great. Everybody good with that? Jean, can you
Jean,
give
do
us a
want me
little
to say
report
my
on
thing
pupil
first or at the
personnel
end?
services?
Do it first? Okay. I want to make sure the board's aware of something I did communicate to you this weekend. And then Jean and I have talked about this, and especially with SEPTA leadership today. It's well understood that we are going to have a fabulous year from Jean. We've had it halfway there. We have another half year, but Jean is interim. Jean has had an amazing career and also has other amazing things to do. So as of July, wow, see, I'm stretching you already. As of June 30th, Jean will shift from being an interim here to go on to other things. We may stay in conversation about some support work. But I had this weekend told you we may talk later about this, but it was very clear to me today. I talked with Alex earlier today. He may have signaled some things to you that we need to provide a sense of the stability that Jean has brought us by letting people know what the plan is. So the plan is, and Jean's been very, very clear on this, I'm 200% behind it, to go out, starting in February, to look for an assistant superintendent. We may modify some of those responsibilities a bit, but to do that. Inside and outside, they're saying we need to still see how this works. Jean has set us on a course. We need to play that out a little more. Second will be to come back with the second assistant director. So we'll have 2 assistant directors. To be clear on that, and I did share that with you this weekend, as Jean and I have talked, many districts this size may not have 2 assistant directors. At this time, there's very clear feeling and evidence, both matter on this, that we need that 2 assistant director structure. And it would mean a lot to our students, most importantly, to our families, and also to our staff as we're trying to move forward. It is a budget neutral move. I want to be clear on that, and the quality of the administration on that will help us do the best work possible for all students, but also those within the special ed realm. So I just wanted to let you know that, because tomorrow, at some point, I'm going to send out a very short note to the entire district, so everyone's aware, they know the plan, and we're proceeding. Final comment, as Jean and I have talked, we'll lead with the search for the assistant super, time that so that once we name that individual, they will have a role in who that assistant director will be. So it'll be a bit of a phasing, something like we're doing currently with the FMS principal opening.
Yeah, that makes good sense.
And now Jean has a critical update for you, but I just wanted you all to hear this from me.
Will there be any time for the new person for you guys to mentor or some sort of transition? Because you've learned so much this year, so that could be shared with the new person?
I'm hoping that we do have some time to have that crossover.
Yes. Yes, very much. We'll work on that.
Yeah, and I think that the structure is a very good structure and very appropriate. Very appropriate structure for the upcoming school year, and perhaps down the road that can always be revised based on any changes moving forward.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So, sure, I'd like to update you tonight, provide you some updates on our 2 main initiatives.
Jean, I don't think you're in the...
Let me just maybe pull the base closer will help. Yeah.
What is that?
All our technical fun.
Oh, we're having technical failure here.
Right in there.
Is that
Lean
okay?
way in.
Okay, can you hear me better now? Okay. So I'd like to provide updates on our 2 main initiatives that we've been working on throughout the course of the year, our professional development and our continuum of special services. So we're moving forward with our PAF training. We're in the process of training sessions for our second cohort. 11 special educators are currently accessing live online training through the PAF company. This is followed by a series of in-program coaching sessions. And due to a willingness to foster an ongoing partnership with the district, the trainers are going to continue to be available to troubleshoot any questions or concerns moving forward with teachers, staff who have taken the courses. At the conclusion of the training, we'll have 21 new staff newly trained in this evidence-based phonemic awareness, phonics-based program to have as a tool in their instructional toolbox for teaching literacy, teaching reading. We're happy about that. We've been researching and contacting leads for those able to provide quality neurodiversity training to our staff. Recently, Mary Angela Sanchez and I had a virtual conference with NYU Steinhardt's PINE program for inclusion and neurodiversity education. After hearing from community members and teachers, we're very excited to be learning about this program and its offerings to potentially support our school district. PINE continues to have conversations with numerous districts throughout the county and offers a suite of services at essentially 3 levels. Coursework and library is one of them. 1-hour mini courses, secondly, and a third is system-wide program and coaching, and together with office hours to address concerns as they arise. So following our conference, Lauren Huff from PINE forwarded additional information about the program. Importantly, this program also has a contract with BOCES, so the district can determine the best option, program option to meet its needs, along with the most cost-effective way to proceed, if interested. As a start, Lauren Huff or her colleague Aaron Lanou may be available to present at our superintendent's conference day in March. They are checking dates. It's very exciting and may offer a wonderful complement and support to the Hastings neurodiverse student community, but more information and discussion are needed. And if not using this resource, then perhaps another may more appropriately meet our needs. Another professional development initiative involved GNR co-teaching, teacher training. The 7th session, full-day training session, continues tomorrow with Jen Turner. The final session is in February, and Jen will generously also share some of her tools and strategies with our 2 high school learning facilitators, Ellen Driscoll and Jill Ochacha, to support carryover and generalization of skills. So we're happy about that, to move it forward. As part of our budget proposal, we did recommend ongoing PD for special ed teachers, general ed teachers, and TAs and aides, with a focus next year on co-teaching, neurodiversity, behavioral management strategies, evidence-based reading instruction, program modifications and testing accommodations, and CPI training. So all of those areas we feel are fundamental. We started many of them this year, but these are some additional areas that potentially could be focused on. In terms of our continuum of services, PPS submitted our budget proposal in a timely manner, following district protocol and bearing in mind our 2 district initiatives. We looked for areas in our continuum where there may have been gaps and areas of need along a continuum of special ed services, and we're looking to hopefully fill those gap areas for the upcoming school year and then moving forward. We are also conducting in-house training around transition planning with respect to IEP development, including our recent meeting with SED, State Education Department trainers, and then doing, just recently, as a matter of fact today, some turnkey training with our middle school and our high school staff around transition supports. Also coming before the board tonight for consideration is Anna Marentides as a part-time CSE chairperson during our annual review process. I'd like to highlight several key aspects of her resume. So Ms. Marentides is a New York State certified bilingual school psychologist with more than 15 years of experience. In her prior, yes?
1-5.
Yes. In her prior work as a New York City public school and private program psychologist, she's chaired numerous IEP meetings, including annual reviews and program reviews for students with disabilities. In addition to her responsibilities as an experienced chairperson, she's worked closely with related service therapists and teachers, case managed and provided counseling support services, and administered functional behavioral assessments and developed behavior intervention plans. Additionally, she has a wealth of experience in the administration, scoring, and interpretation of numerous psychoeducational assessments, which serves her well, particularly as chairperson. She currently holds 3 master's degrees in the area of psychology, clinical psychology, and school psychology. Our program requires the support of an additional part-time chairperson for our approximately 270 annual review meetings, which must occur during the next 5 months in order to maintain compliance with Part 200 of the New York Commissioner's regulations. This need can be further understood from the perspective of having 1 fewer special ed administrator serving as chairperson this year compared to the prior years where there were 3. We're 2 now. With board approval, we anticipate that Ms. Marentides will chair approximately 25 of those meetings. It should be noted that Ms. Marantiti's bilingual background will clearly be an asset in her responsibilities as chairperson. And so broken down, the way that we're looking at this point in time in terms of chairing our meetings with the approximate 270, we have Laura Sullivan continuing, who knows our families very well, chairing approximately 50 meetings. Liz Zuck, who is well known to Hillside and who worked last year at Hillside, chairing approximately 60 meetings as a contractor. Our 5 building level school psychologists, each taking a handful of meetings for approximately a total of 60 meetings. 2 district-wide school psychologists, Nicole Siegel and Christy Brahms, chairing approximately 26 meetings. Mary Angela Sanchez, approximately 25 meetings, complex cases, and myself as well, 25 of the complex cases. In addition to annual review meetings, we also hold in the spring senior exit meetings for all of our seniors who hold documents, approximately 12. Separate IEP program reviews, we're anticipating approximately 10. And additionally, initial IEP meetings, approximately 25 based upon, and that's based upon last year's figures. So, it's a little over 300 meetings, and that's in addition, of course, to our daily responsibilities. So, yeah. But it always gets done. It always does, yeah.
So Gina, I want to thank you on behalf of the board. I think we all feel incredibly grateful and fortunate that we have you for this year. I think we would all agree that we would do anything to keep you for another year, but we fully get it. But I think we've been so lucky. I think you've already given so much, not just your time and energy and your experience and expertise, but you've, in a very concrete way, made a major contribution that I think we all know was really important in terms of the special ed department currently and moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you so much. That means so much to me. I really appreciate that. I have put my heart and soul into the work, and I've come to learn about some really wonderful people. I've really enjoyed my work with the team. They're very, very special, and together we did good things this year. And I hope to continue that through the end of this year, through June 30th.
Well, thank you. Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Well said, Jody. I think I echo that. I think you have made a remarkable difference on so many fronts. Training, you point out, like, this isn't practical, this isn't the protocol, like, this is how you respond. I think your legacy will live on, and I too would love for you to stay. Maybe you'll reconsider. But thank you very much for all your hard work.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I especially want to thank you because while you were detailing all of the training, the professional development training, we had talked in the beginning of the year during a board meeting about the training extending to general education teachers, especially those in the ICT settings. So thank you for really making that happen.
Oh, you're very welcome. Yeah, that became very important to us. We heard it here, we heard it from community, we heard it from SEPTA. So we know how important it is to this community, and we want to be able to fulfill that need.
Thank you very much for your detailed sharing that you just gave us.
Sure.
Do you foresee that's a lot of meetings?
That is.
And it's not they don't take place over 10 months, right?
Correct.
They take place over like 5 months.
5 months.
Do you foresee this contractual role being in existence year to year? Do you think that would be a good
I really don't. at
Oh.
this point in time, because what I'm thinking is that with the addition of a third administrator, and we did add into our budget perhaps one contractual as opposed to the multiple
Right,
contractual.
right. Okay.
So we added one where we would anticipate that most likely for any, overage in terms of meeting time. Yeah.
Okay, so, I'm just trying to wrap my head around the hirings that are needed and like the structure. So there's the 2 assistant directors will be in place going forward, and your position that you currently hold.
Yes.
And with those 3 positions plus all the psychologists who could chair meetings, there wouldn't be as much need for all of the
Correct.
contractors.
Yes, that's what we foresee.
Mhm.
Yes. Perhaps one person for any overage that may occur. Yeah. Which is similar to what they had last year, right? With the 3 positions, 3 administrative positions, and Liz Zuck served as the contractor. And that was it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right, let's move on to business items. Anybody have any questions? On numbers 1 through 6? Can I have a
And let me
motion?
just note, as you just heard from Jean, we had tabled last meeting the vote on what's item 5 here, so that Jean could present to you, which I thought was a superb memo, which she just read to you, giving a real framework, both the immediate and longer term. And then today, I'll smile, said, well, Bill, I listed each specific person in the number. I said, exactly right. That's what yeah.
Yes.
So both conceptually, systematically, whatever broad words you want, and then very specific. So all my point is, we heard you last meeting, and we did the work, and Jean, I think, really delivered for you.
Anybody have any other, Dave?
No.
Wait, want to make a motion?
Did you ask for a motion?
Would anybody like to make a motion to approve business items 1 through 6?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll move on to placement and/or services for CSC and CPSC. Someone like to make a motion to accept the recommendations for placement and
So moved.
services?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you all. Okay, going to move to the personnel consent agenda, including appointments, amendments, and resignations.
I was just going to comment.
Leaves of absence.
Oh, sorry. Just commenting that there's 2 major resignations for the middle school for teachers that have been there for a very long time. And just, I think it's important to pause and recognize it. And it will be a loss in many ways, but exciting for them as they embark on their new adventures.
Retirements.
Two resignations?
I mean, retirements, sorry,
Yeah,
retirements.
I always say the same thing.
It's late. For me, it's
well,
like midnight. But retirements. Sorry.
Right,
Miss Killian and Miss Richmond.
right. I have been here for,
I know.
my kids had both of them.
Mine
It's a
too.
big
A
deal.
long time ago.
Some combined almost, it's over 50 years of experience combined
Yeah.
in
Yes.
Hastings.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Moving on, just got a little distracted. That my mother worked with Lisa Wall Killian's father. I don't even want to tell you when. Probably in the 1960s
You're good at
at the University of Bridgeport. And I remember him.
Wow.
Yeah. Looking at the minutes from the January, no. From the December 15th, sorry, from the December 15th meeting. Anybody have any questions? Anything? Dave?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Somebody like to make a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, committee reports. Who would like to report on the policy committee?
Hi, everyone. Policy Committee had another successful meeting last week where we tackled a few big issues, some of which I'll discuss today, some of which we're going to be working on over the course of the next couple of months. The first one is Policy 5100, which we are going to move to first read today. This is a policy around student attendance. There were a few changes that we made with regards, but the big highlights here are that only those students with excused absences, tardiness, or early departure will be given the opportunity to make up their work or tests. The superintendent will ultimately be able to excuse up to 3 absences, tardiness, or early departures per school year for the students. And then also we're going to be annually reviewing the building level student attendance records. And if the records show a decline in student attendance, we would then make any revisions to the policy. So that's being submitted for first read to today's meeting. Additionally, we're making a recommendation to rescind a policy that is 4526.2. This is student use of privately owned technology. And this policy is being rescinded as it is in conflict with our policy 5695, which is the bell-to-bell personal device policy. So we are recommending to rescind that policy at the
What
meeting.
does it mean to rescind a policy?
It means we're going to get rid of it. It's because it's in conflict, right? So this was the 4526.2 was a policy around students bringing their own devices to school, right? And the regulations and rules around that. Because now we have the bell-to-bell policy mandated by the state, and now this, our 5695, which reflects that, essentially makes the two policies in conflict with each other.
Okay, thank you.
Additionally, just to give everybody a heads up on some things that are coming down the pipe, we are going to be looking, and I think I mentioned this at the last meeting, we're going to be really, over the course of the next couple of months, looking at technology, both across instructional technology, which is 4510.1, as well as AI use, which is 4526.3, and acceptable use, 4526.1. These are going to be policies we're going to be really looking into deep and working with Melissa and her team as they work with the technology committee to really focus and create some long-standing and really overdue policy around some really important issues. I think I mentioned this last time, but the technology policy, especially on instructional use, hasn't been updated in 12 years. So obviously a lot of technology has changed in 12 years, and this is a really important for us as a board and a district to tackle this and to do this in a really future-facing way. So otherwise, that is it for the policy committee.
So I think obviously the first read, you're going to gets revisited.
Yes.
The second read, 2 policies for the request for religious exemption, promotion and retention of students. We're at a point where we vote on those policies, whether we accept them, unless people have
I did not
some
have
reason
that.
not to vote.
No, that's good.
So,
Yes. I didn't have that in my notes, but yes, those are the policies from the December. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, the second read, it's the policy 4315, request for religious exemption.
4650.
And then 4750.
And 4750. So just as a refresher, 4315, this is the policy for a family to opt out of specific lesson plans for religious objection. And that was first read at the 1215 meeting, and then 4750 is the promotion and retention of students. That policy discusses the promotion and retention of students, discussing best practices for communication and roles and responsibilities throughout the year. Submitted for second read. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll vote first to accept the 2 policies from the second read. Could somebody make a motion to accept?
So moved.
So moved. You're on a roll.
Second?
Second.
All in favor of accepting the 2 policies for the second read? And then on the rescission of the policy, for student use of privately owned technology, can we have a motion to accept the rescission?
So moved.
Of that policy?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Second public comment. I think the public has spoken. Agenda review?
Yeah, just quickly looking at this document helps keep us flowing correctly, right? So the 27th is our next meeting. There'll be an initial budget update. This is when we sort of do an introduction, quick overview. Maureen and I will do that. We, at the end of next week, set up some time for some round robin, smaller conversations, which are perfectly allowable. So I think Melissa D. followed up with you. The evening meeting, I think, is now full, but there is some opportunity earlier, and we can look at some virtual ways to tie in. What we're planning there, just so you know, is there's a very good, tight overview of how it all's adding up. We want to show you that. A second piece of paper will be key drivers to where we are right now. And a third piece of paper is, because we've been working very intensely, going to every school, every department, as you know, Jean mentioned, the whole special ed PPS area, and I think we'll list there some of the tough questions we're seeing as we look at where we are. No, I'm talking about the meetings next week, just to just those, that sort of tight summary, and then in that meeting we can talk about what will come to you later in the full public meetings, be it, you know, whatever multiple year analyses, et cetera, but at least to give you that basic look. We also have updates on what the growth rate is and all. We've been given a challenge, and so there was all things we can do with you next week. That sets up well the 27th of that, you know, and then we get into February into very intense budget work. All right.
Any board comments?
Just as we look ahead towards the budget, I know last year we talked about having some more public engagement around that, and I was wondering if that was planned out for the spring, and if you need to get some of those dates on the agenda for the community.
I mean, beyond, what do you mean? I'd clarify.
More of an exchange with the community around the budgeting process. I remember that was some feedback that we received from various stakeholders.
I think we've done that before when we've had public, right, Maureen, over the years.
You got to speak into the mic.
And we used to do the CBAC.
I mean, you could always, well, no, if it's a work session, I mean, we would have, yeah, you'd have to add another meeting, like just some type of budget forum. I think that's, I don't know, let's look at the calendar and see where it would make most sense to plug that in, right? Because it kind of takes a couple times to kind of go through the budget, and
but
things
I think we
do
have to plan
change.
it
And
early.
yeah,
because
yeah, no, I do.
Otherwise,
I'm
I
just
think
thinking
people feel
like
like we're just shoving it down their throats.
Yeah, no, I think,
I
I'm
agree.
trying to think of the because obviously you want to do it prior to the board adopting the budget, because it is kind of interesting the way New York State makes it. The budget hearing happens, but like it's the same night you adopt the budget. So if that's the, you know, that they can kind of say, but there's no opportunity for you to like potentially reflect and then change things, I guess. So I think maybe doing something late March or so, or sometime before you're asked to vote on that as the final budget.
Absolutely.
So, but I think unfortunately, just by the time we get a lot of our information, there is such a short time frame. You know, like we're not. Like I'm saying between both.
No,
so I think
no,
we
I
just,
know.
I'm just thinking out loud, like maybe
Yeah,
March. I would
so-
say March.
Yeah, I think
Late
March, if you look, that's the advantage of this calendar,
Yeah.
this plan we've laid out here, because I think late March makes sense, because it's really, public meetings are public meetings. You do your work in public. That's full opportunity for people to hear about and understand. What you're asking for, which makes sense, is where is there a little more of a discussion potentially, and you want that after you have heard as a board fully where things are. You as a board have begun to ask some questions, so that public discussion is narrowed down into what's sort of the reasonable category.
Right.
And they've heard the stress points that you'll be grappling with, and can, you know, so I'm thinking exactly as Maureen said, kind of late March. I mean, you have a March 17th budget update. You don't vote for another month yet, budget adoption, so somewhere in there.
Yeah,
We'll get
I'm
back to
thinking,
you.
yeah, so I think exactly, Bill, it's,
We're
yeah, we
confirming
needed
and
a little
affirming each
further
other on
along, but
this.
not as far along as the adoption of the budget, so
I think
late
like a month
March.
before you vote,
I
that's
I
that
think
March
we
date.
want to do it, though, early
no.
enough so that if there are things that come up or that
Yeah.
people raise that perhaps we haven't
Yeah,
thought
I mean, the
about,
problem is
that we might
honestly, I
wanna
think,
consider.
again, no, I agree with you, but I'm just, as Bill said, I think we're
you-
not even, we don't even, although we've met and we start our budget process much
Right.
earlier than others, I mean, we're very, very far away from coming down with the budget because of
Yeah.
various internal
Yeah,
factors that we're grappling with.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can, once we have those intro sessions next week, once we do an upgrade for you on the 27th, as you can expect, the degrees of freedom here are quite limited.
Yeah.
I think
So
that's-
if something's going to come in, something's got to go out. But I think that's where you have had full opportunity to get a presentation of where we see the budget, obviously for you to debate, discuss, make
Right.
modifications. That's why I think that March date roughly is good, because you don't vote until your budget adoption date is April 21st.
Okay.
So
Oh, it's
if
later
you're
this
having
year.
a discussion, assuming these dates are right, which I'm
No,
sure
they would
are.
be, I'm saying, it's usually, I'm
Yeah.
just saying in the
Yeah,
teens,
so
the
if
budget
you're
adoption.
voting April 21st, but you're having this public dialogue 4 weeks ahead, that's going to give some time, and then you have a April 8th meeting. That's why I think that
So I think like
So
the
is
end
that
of
March
March.
17th
No, 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 no.
You
Like,
have
we
a
wouldn't
meeting.
even, you wouldn't even see the whole budget at that time. The public meeting would have to be like the last week in March.
Okay, all right,
Yeah, like probably the later the better.
okay.
And then what Bill's saying, based upon that meeting, then you have the opportunity on April 8th.
That's great.
To make modifications